public hearing of the day, which is a public hearing on an ordinance to amend Chapter 3 of the Code of the County of Fairfax, Virginia, County Employees, by adding Article 10, Collective Bargaining, Sections 3-10-1 through 3-10-18. And there is no affidavit for this item. And let me recognize staff for a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Kathy Spage, Director of Human Resources. I know we have a lot of speakers for this, so I'll keep it short. During the 2020 session of the Virginia General Assembly, a bill was passed and signed into law by the governor, giving local governments and school boards the authority to adopt an ordinance or resolution allowing employees to collectively bargain. This was supported in the board's legislative package as well, and it did have a delayed effective date of May 1st, 2021. Meanwhile, to begin the process of adopting an ordinance, on September 29th, 2020, the board created a collective bargaining work group led by Personnel and Reorganization Committee Chair Penny Gross and Supervisor James Walkinshaw. The work group included employee group representatives from the Fairfax County Public Schools, general county government, elected officials from Fairfax County Public Schools, County Executive Brian Hill, the school superintendent Scott Braband, and other senior staff members. The work group met February 18th, 2021, February 25th, and April 8th. Feedback from the group was instrumental in planning related personnel committee meetings, which were held on March 2nd, May 25th, June 29th, and July 20th. The personnel committee meeting received a presentation about the framework of the collective bargaining from the county's outside legal consultant on March 2nd, 2021, and a draft was presented on May 25th. And as a result of the board's discussions at these meetings, the draft collective bargaining ordinance has been revised several times, culminating in the draft collective bargaining ordinance that's the subject of today's public hearings on today's agenda. Personally, I am proud to work for a county that values our employees and our shared goal of excellent service. We saw that commitment even with the last 18 months when forces outside our control stress tested our system in about every way it's possible. However, it is important that any unresolved disputes should have adequate means to prevent disputes and for resolving them when they occur. So a lot of work has gone into the ordinance that you have been working with us and many others for many months, and I appreciate that work has kept the ordinance on track so we can move it forward as quickly as possible. We've had 2 virtual town halls with our employees that had a combined attendance of nearly 1,000 employees. We've made recordings of these town halls, and because we know not everybody's schedule will allow them to attend. We published 4 packages of Q&As from the Board of Supervisors and created many frequently asked questions that are also on the public website. So there's a lot of detail in this proposal and alternative language, much of which you'll hear helpful feedback on tonight. That's it.
Thank you for that presentation. At this time, are there any questions of staff? Any questions of staff? Not seeing any. This is a public hearing, and just for everyone's awareness, I have a speakers list that right now has 63 people signed up on it. So we're going to need to have some patience here. If you were here and want to testify and have not signed up, please make sure you come down and see the clerk and get signed up. And with that, we are going to begin our testimony. And our first speaker is F. Vincent Vernuccio. Is Vincent here? If you could come on down, and if you know where you are on the speakers list, if you want to gravitate down closer, that will save us a lot of time and energy. Mr. Vernuccio will be followed by Kimberly Adams, Leslie Houston, and Dave Lyons. If you're here and want to come on down closer to the podium, that would be appreciated. Mr. Vernuccio, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Vincent Vernuccio, and I am a visiting fellow at the Thomas Jefferson Institute. Fairfax public employees need to be protected. They need to be protected in their choice of a union. They need to be protected in their privacy. and their First Amendment rights need to be protected. Unfortunately, these protections are not in this ordinance. In fact, the ordinance over the iterations over the last few months has actually gotten worse. Virginia's Secret Ballot Protection Act at a state level is being circumvented via mail-in voting or a compromise that could provide for other means, which may include electronic voting, which even the federal government has said that they cannot ensure the security of in union organizing elections. It includes escape windows, where public employees can be locked into paying a union for up to a year. They can authorize these dues without knowledge and over the phone by voice, without the requisite written consent and information of the rights as is required by the Supreme Court from the Jadis versus AFSCME decision. It also includes a gag order on the county of what they can tell their public employees about their rights. It includes Hotel California, where it's easier to form a union than to dissolve it. A union can be formed by a majority of vote of those voting, and then in the small window of time, which ends even with the expiration of a collective bargaining agreement, only a majority of everyone in the unit must vote to have the union disbanded. There are severe privacy implications. The county alone can give home addresses, personal information to unions to organize employees, and those employees have no say to say, no, I don't want my personal information shared. There are captive audience meetings. Unions can subject new hires to a 30-minute session. Think a timeshare presentation on steroids just to keep your job. All of that is in this ordinance. We're not talking about collective bargaining being good or bad or what should be bargained over collective bargaining. We are talking about protections for public employees, giving them privacy, allowing them to opt out of people contacting them at home, informing them of their rights under Virginia's right to work law, under the Supreme Court's decision in Jadis versus AFSCME, and also protecting their choice, saying if you want a union, you can form a union, but make it as easy to get out as it is to get in. Don't have arbitrary timelines. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm also happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kimberly Adams, and Kimberly has 5 minutes to testify. She'll be followed by Leslie Houston and Dave Lyons. Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman McKay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I will not take 5 minutes of your time with the speaker list behind me, but as the president of the Fairfax Education Association, the FEA recognizes the strong collective bargaining need for all employees. In Fairfax County, we have this opportunity ahead of us to improve the working conditions for all employees in order to maintain the excellent services that all expect in our community. I stand here today shoulder to shoulder with my mask on and social distancing, with my union brothers and sisters. Together, we have faced incredible challenges to bring collective bargaining back to the Commonwealth of Virginia. This map shows 7 states. We are no longer one of those 7. We have brought collective bargaining back to Virginia, and yes, even to Fairfax County, after 40 years, more than 40 years. The county ordinance language that you have developed will shape the contract negotiations for your general county employees, including first responders, librarians, social workers, and so many others. It is not perfect, but it does set a positive path forward for workers' rights. Your school employees are looking forward to participating in a similar process with our Fairfax County School Board and leadership in the months ahead. We expect to develop resolution language that will provide this same opportunity to openly discuss working conditions as our students' learning conditions, as well as pay, benefits, and employee discipline procedures that will restore dignity to our workforce. The FEA stands alongside county employees in calling for what is right for workers and their families. As a mother in our county of 2 students in our public schools and the wife of a public school teacher, it is necessary for our workers and their families to have what they need in our county. I am encouraged to know that many in our community are standing with us in support. We are the people who make Fairfax County a world-class place to live, work, and thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Our next speaker is Leslie Houston. Ms. Houston, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman McKay, County Executive Hill, and board members. I am a Fairfax County public school teacher and the president-elect of Fairfax Education Association. Most of all, I am a proud member of this Fairfax community. I, like many of you, depend on our essential county workers for basic needs. Without them, this county would not run efficiently. Adults with elderly parents living in this county rely on home health aides who assist the elderly with daily tasks. We all look to the first responders to serve and protect us in an emergency, and most recently, during this pandemic, we have relied heavily on our nurses and healthcare staff to care for us while caring for their own families and trying to survive. Our county workers deserve dignity on the job, and the way you can support this is by giving them a voice through collective bargaining. During this pandemic, so many of our county employees put themselves on the front lines to ensure this community would remain healthy and safe. A strong collective bargaining ordinance is needed for them to keep their families healthy and safe as well. While this ordinance has been revised, there are still very important changes that need to occur. These essential workers must have a seat at the table. After not having collective bargaining in Virginia for 40 years, it is imperative these county employees have meaningful collective bargaining rights. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s last fight on this earth was for unionized sanitation workers in Memphis that resulted in his assassination. Surely, he cannot have died in vain for the county to do anything today other than support collective bargaining for these essential workers. The time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes recommended by the unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for these county employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. Our next speaker is Dave Lyons, followed by, is Patrick Booth here? Patrick, if you could come on down closer to be ready to testify. Michael Pierce, if Michael Pierce is here, if you could come down closer, and Marcus Clark. Actually, Marcus Clark is calling in, so he can't come down closer. With that, Mr. Lyons, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Mr. Pierce has to take care of his parents this evening. He can't be here. And Mr. Clark is standing by. And I wanted to say to you that 44 years ago, and some change, I came to work for Fairfax County as a firefighter. When I graduated recruit school, I went to Station 27, right there on Rolling Road, right next to Supervisor Harity's father, who was there at the time. And I'm not telling you that so I can say, gee, I've been here a long time. I'm telling you that because when I came to work, the #1 topic of conversation was collective bargaining. It had just ended. That's how far back I go. It had just ended. The last contract in the state, which was for the Fairfax firefighters, had just ended. Now, at that fall, as some of you may remember, the legendary Henry Howe, in my mind, one of the greatest Democrats ever, was defeated for the governorship by a man that walked around the state with a piece of garden hose and said, if Henry gets back in there, this is what you'll have to put your fires out. I remember that. I was 22 years old. That's how long it's been. That's why it pains me to ask you, after all this time and all the work, that the ordinance is written in its current form does not serve the purpose for which I think you meant it to serve. Since that time, we built a great union, Local 2068. Mike Moeller, John Nemick, Pat Morrison, Eric Lamar, John Harris, many others, over that entire time, built a tremendous and effective union, as you all know. And now that we stand on the cusp of instituting collective bargaining through the local ordinance, we deserve a better ordinance. The problem with this ordinance is I think it's going to hurt any workers. And in the Fairfax Workers Coalition, many of the people you were talking about earlier, the people that do solid waste, that pick up the trash, they're our members. This ordinance will hurt them. This ordinance will hurt people of color. This ordinance will hurt people on the low end of the pay scale. And the reason is, in this ordinance, you've elected to have a ordinance that looks like nothing anyone I know has ever seen. It is completely inclusive of the entire general county workforce, all the way up to, in some cases, deputy directors. This is a recipe for division and chaos in management. It is far outside the mainstream of any labor management ordinance or rules that I've ever seen. I will not allow anyone to say that we are opposed to collective bargaining by opposing this ordinance as written. Not with my history, not with what I've done here, not with what I've stood for. We have fought for this long and hard for many years. That's why it's so important that you get it right. This ordinance would allow people, for instance, I represent people that are S10 laborers. The person that runs their facility of 200 people will be in the same bargaining unit. I challenge you to find anywhere in the country that does that. You have many jurisdictions, do what the city of Alexandria did, which is interesting to me because the city of Alexandria used the exact same outside counsel that you did. And yet they came up with an ordinance that split the general county into 3 classes: trades, administrative, and executive. So how did that happen? The reason it happened, and I hate to say this, but this is an ordinance crafted for a large corporate union that wants to maximize its power, its money, and its members, and it will not serve the people that it's supposed to serve. And the people on the bottom will be the ones that will get the least. Their voices will not be heard as much as the folks that are at the top of the heap. We ask you to reconsider the language in this ordinance and say, am I over my time? I'm sorry.
You are.
I'm sorry.
If you could wrap up, I realize you have Michael Pierce, who's not testifying
Yes,
with
sir.
your group, so if you want to continue for another minute or two.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. He wasn't able to be here.
Sure.
You need to provide an ordinance that really speaks to labor and management relationships as they exist in the real world. You need to provide an ordinance that has a fair election process. You need to provide an ordinance that is good public policy, not good political policy, for folks with a lot of money that have been calling every county employee nonstop, urging them to support them. The fact is, the vast majority of your county employees right now do not understand what's going on. I rarely speak to anyone that has any idea what is happening with this. To be fair, I think the county staff has done as much as it could do in a nonpartisan way to educate folks. But you cannot reduce collective bargaining to simplistic slogans, hand out flyers that say, we'll get you more money if you vote for us. That's not what it is. Collective bargaining affects and permeates every aspect of organizational life. And we need to be careful, and we need to do it right, and we need to make it fair. That's why we joined with the Coalition of Police and many other county employees in saying yes to collective bargaining, but this ordinance is written is not fair, and it doesn't serve the public, the workers, or the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Patrick Booth. Patrick, if you can come on down. Michael Pierce is not here. Mr. Booth, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Booth. I was born in this county, graduated high school in this county. My son was born here and played his first baseball game right there off Pickett, where I coached Little League for years. I was not bussed in from out of state or from Richmond this morning like many of the people behind me were. They're easy to identify. For the last 8 years, I've worked next to your brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. I now have the honor of representing working staff of Ferris County as the president of the only internal not-for-profit union, the Fairfax Workers Coalition. I want to make it very clear that I'm in support of a union and collective bargaining. However, it needs to have equality for all staff, especially lower staff members. The deciding factor of individuals' rights and voice should not be dictated by their pay grade. The ordinance being proposed here tonight will indefinitely hurt county staff, especially lower staff. The same staff that shows up every day while the rest of the world has shut down during COVID. I personally worked underground in the sewer system next to my brothers to ensure every toilet in this county has flushed. A very basic privilege that many take for granted. Putting these employees in the same bargaining unit with senior staff is absurd. It only stands to exacerbate the warden mentality that runs rapid through this county. It is a mentality that all staff has experienced. I have personally experienced this in February. During a disagreement with a senior supervisor, he yelled, "The effing inmates do not make the rules, it's the warden that makes the rules in this county." These ordinances are possibly the greatest example of a big profit union collaborating with the county's 1 top % earners. As a country, we have moved towards actions of equality. I stand here before you to tell you that these ordinances do the exact opposite. It is unacceptable for this board to keep this oppressive way of thinking. These are not the values of this community. For many of these lower level staff, they've overcome great obstacles and still come to work every day. They're without the backbone of this community. You heard earlier, we have a hiring problem. We do not have a hiring problem. We have a retention problem. When county employees are being treated this way, it is easy to consider why they go to the private sector. As my time concludes, I ask everyone in this room to listen to each speaker. Ask yourself, are they a county resident or county employee? Were they incentivized to read a pre-written statement? Do these speakers truly understand the inequalities these ordinances pass? Ones the county made to employees and have the duty to ensure equal rights to. To the ones that were bussed in today, I encourage you to explore our county tonight. It's truly a wonderful county and has lots to offer. A county that truly has better ordinance to pass than the ones proposed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. We now are on speaker number 7, Marcus Clark, who has called in. Is Mr. Clark with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm present. Thank you.
Mr. Clark, welcome. You have 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm a member of the Fairfax Coalition. I am presently an employee at the I-66 transfer station. I originally started at Newington, so I've had the experience of living in both worlds, so to speak. I'm definitely for the collective bargaining agreement, but it has to be done correctly. Management should not be allowed to be involved on the same plateau as individuals such as myself, especially being from from what we have seen over the last few years from the individuals who actually run the solid waste division, the working conditions are absolutely, positively atrocious. The individuals who run it have an agenda in which they have attempted and somewhat succeeded to oppress us in many, many different ways. And having them involved in the collective bargaining agreement will not allow any fairness to individuals such as myself. As far as their decision making when it comes to basic things such as equipment. But it's just gotten worse, and it gets worse every single day. It would be an atrocity to allow these individuals to be in the same collective bargaining agreement as us. Something needs to be done because we need to have a voice. Basic decisions such as equipment, but you can't expect someone to make proper decisions about things such as equipment when they actually have had no experience whatsoever in actually operating in the equipment. When it comes to, in terms of spending money on equipment, they have absolutely no idea. The agenda that has been pushed from the top people who run solid waste to the individuals that I work with closely, as far as complex manager and some supervisors and some assistant superintendents, has caused once a prominent agency in which people used to beat the door down to work here, in which we cannot even retain people at this point. Our turnover rate has skyrocketed since I've been an employee for the county, and something needs to be done. It is the way it's being promoted at this present time is to further push an agenda, so that way they have all the power, and people such as myself don't have any power. And I think individuals that work for the county need to realize that we are the county, not them, because we get our hands dirty each and every day, and they don't. And they have no clue as to what it takes to be an employee and be proud of something, because we are actually proud people, and we do a good job, and we're proud to do the job. But with the current situation and the current agenda that's being pushed, pushes you to your limit, and which is hard to be proud to be a Fairfax employee at this present time.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to be brief.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark.
I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. We are now on speaker number 8, John Cook, followed by, followed by video. And is Ryan Volkman, he's calling in person. Karen Sheffield here? Okay, you'll be the next in-person speaker, but we have a couple in between. John Cook, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's a pleasure to be back here in this room tonight. It will even be more of a pleasure to walk out those doors in a few minutes and not to sit in those chairs for the next 4 hours. So thank you. Thank you for your service and the commitment that you're making tonight. My name is John Cook, and I'm here tonight in my capacity as counsel for the Fairfax Workers Coalition. And as you have heard already, the coalition very much strongly supports your passing a collective bargaining ordinance. But the ordinance in front of you tonight is fatally flawed and subject to legal challenge. My focus is on the definition of administratively acceptable evidence in section 3-10-8. These are the documents that would be submitted to the Labor Relations Administrator by an organization seeking to get on the ballot. Now, when you and I ran for office, we had to circulate petitions. And those petitions had at the very top the office we were seeking and the specific date of the election we were running in. And it was very clear to anybody signing that petition what that petition meant. But this draft ordinance before us tonight doesn't have that. It allows the LRA to take membership lists, rosters, dues payments, and other documents that that person can decide without limit to time and use those to count them as essentially petition signatures. For example, many members of the Fairfax Workers Coalition a few years ago were members of a different organization. Can their membership cards from that time be used to count and show their support for that organization? Under this ordinance, perhaps they could. What about the person who joined an organization 2 years ago, prior to the passage of the state law that permitted collective bargaining? That person may have joined a union in order to have support in a grievance hearing. That person may have joined a union to get a ticket to the Christmas party. That person may not have been thinking about collective bargaining, or maybe they were, we don't know. But the problem here is that the proposed ordinance does not tell the LRA how to judge the papers coming to him. And there's a principle in Virginia law, and it goes back 100 years, that you cannot delegate legislative authority to an administrative officer. You're the legislative body. You have to set the guideposts on what administratively acceptable evidence is. It's the job of the LRA to then judge whether the papers coming to her meet that definition. Here, the LRA writes the definition, also judges the papers that come to her, and that decision is not subject to any legal review. And therefore, this ordinance violates Virginia law by giving that legislative authority to an administrative officer without review. Please, after 40 years, we can take another couple months to get this right, take it back, put the ordinance in a position where it can withstand legal scrutiny, and do what everyone in this room, almost everybody in this room, wants, is a good, fair, sound piece of legislation that forwards the public policy of this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Good to see you back in the auditorium. Our next speaker is John Farrell, who has submitted YouTube testimony.
My name is John Farrell, and I'm the police representative for the Employee Advisory Council. I would like to thank the Chairman and the Board of Supervisors for their support and the work that they're doing to craft a fair and equitable collective bargaining ordinance. I would respectfully request that the language be included in the ordinance to protect groups like the EAC and ensure that they will still have a voice in employee advocacy on matters outside of the scope of the CBA, and that the Board continue to meet and listen to all employee groups. I would ask that the Board ensure that the process to select the CBA bargaining groups be fair and transparent. Specifically, in respect to the police department, I would strongly advocate for a defined bargaining class of second lieutenant and below. The paramilitary structure of a police department, while efficient and necessary to carry out the mission of law enforcement and public safety, can at times inhibit the free flow of information and employee advocacy due to the strict adherence of the rank structure. The front line of the department should be the bargaining class without the undue influence of command presence in the group. I would like to thank each and every one of you during these trying times for the work you've done, and thank you for your commitment to the betterment of the workers of Fairfax County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farrell. Our next speaker is number 10, Ryan Volkman. And Mr. Volkman, have you joined us by phone?
Yes, I have.
Welcome. The floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So my name is Ryan Volkman, and I am a resident and member of the Fairfax County community. My wife has also been a lifetime Fairfax County resident, and I'm happy to report that we are parents of a future Fairfax County school student. So everyday residents like myself rely on the essential services provided by our county employees and the teachers who work in our schools, the people working hard to keep our streets paved, collect our trash, and keep our county running, a set of services that we've only asked more and more of these people over the last few years during the pandemic. I believe that this collective bargaining agreement is critical for our employees to have a real seat at the table to negotiate for the things they need to serve our community and take care of our own families. Certainly, as the many speakers here have said, there's opportunities for improving this agreement, but I believe that the changes we need to include must be as follows. We must let our employees bargain over their conditions of safety, health, scheduling, and staffing, as this is a core component of bargaining. We must let them talk and freely about their agreement in the workplace without fear of any retaliation, and it should be a universal agreement. Whether you are a temporary or a full-time employee of the county, you should have a right to be part of this collective bargaining agreement. I think this ordinance has come a long way. There are certainly many areas where we can improve it, but I think this is the time for Fairfax County to get it right. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes and pass a meaningful collective bargaining agreement for our county employees. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Volkman. Speaker number 11 is Karen Sheffield. Karen is down here, and she will be followed by Anne Marie Creighton. Is Anne Marie Creighton here? Anne Marie Creighton? Okay. Ms. Sheffield, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Karen Sheffield, and I am the chairwoman of the Employee Advisory Council, an 11-member council that represents Fairfax County employees, including general county, fire, and police. We are elected by employees and have been proudly serving employees for over 50 years. The Employee Advisory Council fully supports collective bargaining for county employees. The EAC thanks the Board of Supervisors for the inclusion of the EAC and other employee groups throughout this process. The EAC applauds the spirit of collective bargaining ordinance to promote the harmonious and cooperative relationship between the county government and its employees. We also applaud the county's long history of meeting with employee groups and considering multiple voices in employee matters, including the EAC. We advocate that the county continues to keep this pathway open for the multiple employee groups' voices to be included as appropriate. We applaud the ordinance for supporting voluntary payroll deductions for the union and other employee groups. The EAC looks forward to continuing our work outside the scope of collective bargaining and working in harmony with this new environment. The EAC cautions and recommends the following changes to the collective bargaining ordinance. Number 1, on page 4, under the definitions section, supervisors, we advocate that it should be revised for the police and fire CBUs. Supervisors that have undue influence of command should not be included in the CBU. In respect to the police department, a supervisor should include all the positions above the rank of second lieutenant. Likewise, with the respect to the fire department, a supervisor should include all positions above the rank of battalion chief, not deputy chief as currently proposed. A deputy chief is a managerial employee who represents the county, whose job it is to formulate and enforce policies that will have direct impact on the labor relations with the CBU. The inclusion of these ranks in a CBU may also represent conflict with the proposed ordinance, as these positions may qualify under the confidential employee definition. Number 2, we strongly advocate for the proposed change from permissive to mandatory collective bargaining for the items included in Section 310.4. These are core elements of a CBA. Number 3, under accompanying rights 310.11h, if the first option in the ordinance is chosen, then it should be made clear that an employee has the right to union representation or other representation of their choosing before commencing discussions or interviews. By adding or other employee chosen representation, this makes it clear that clear to the employee of all the choices that are available to them. We thank you for all of your efforts in this ordinance. The EAC looks forward to continuing our work outside the scope of collective bargaining and working in harmony in this new environment.
Thank you, Ms. Sheffield. And is Anne Marie Creighton here? Has Anne Marie Creighton joined us? Speaker number 12. Don't see speaker number 12. Speaker number 13 is Adam Norton, and before I turn to Adam, I just want to say you'll notice a few of my colleagues not out here. We've been meeting since 9:30, and they're grabbing dinner in shifts. But rest assured, there are TVs back there, and we are being able to see, everyone is being able to see everyone's testimony as it's delivered. So I just want to be sure that you know that. Speaker number 13 is Adam Norton, who has joined us by phone. Mr. Norton, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone coming to the hearing or attending virtually. So my name is Norton, and my background is actually, I'm not an employee in Fairfax County or child schools here. I attended schools myself from K through 12 in Fairfax County, and now I work in Fairfax County as a traffic systems engineer. So I actually help out with just in different spots around the country. And I have seen there are a lot of different companies working together with public employees, and I can see unionized jobs versus non-unionized jobs working on the same push. Hopefully I can kind of, that's the perspective I'm sharing from.
Okay. Was that the end of your testimony, Mr. Norton?
He was disconnected, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, well, is Hallie Rossum on the line?
We were unable to reach Ms. Russum.
Okay, that will take us to speaker number 15, Sean Corcoran, President of the Fairfax Coalition of Police, Local 5000, who will be followed by David Popick. Is David here? Okay, and Angela Lentz. Okay. Mr. Corcoran, welcome. The floor is yours, and you have 5 minutes.
Thanks, sir. And Dave and Angela will be yielding their time to me. Excuse me, apologize. I thought I had 2 more to go here. Good evening. I'm Sean Corcoran, and I'm the President of the Fairfax Coalition of Police. We thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Let me just make one thing perfectly clear. We support collective bargaining. We work to bring collective bargaining to Virginia and had the privilege to testify on its behalf in the General Assembly. Police officers, public safety, and the General County all deserve to partake in collective bargaining to fight for the best pay, benefits, and working conditions possible in a way that reflects and respects the values of the community as a whole. What we are concerned about and do not support in its current form is the ordinance that sits before you. Our path to this point has been very problematic, marked more by opaqueness and backroom meetings versus a transparent process that employee organizations, employees, and community members could understand and get behind. As the board has felt it important to lay out the process of how we got here, let's discuss. The work group was commissioned in September of 2020, but did not convene until February of 2021. Once we entered the discussions, they were arguably unwieldy, with dozens of people from groups and organizations throughout both the General County and the schools. We've all been living in a never-ending carousel of online meetings. Please, tell me one where a huge number of people with divergent viewpoints and goals were on a meeting and things truly got done. By no means is this a criticism of those administering the meetings, but these were less collaborative discussions and more people taking their few allotted minutes to present a wish list and what they would like to see. It was also clear that there were some that wanted this process done quickly and not necessarily done right. One issue that I raised in these meetings and has motivated our current action was that we needed to take the time and do this right, educate the workforce, the community, and most importantly, you, the decision makers. Because one lesson that I have learned about this process is that the knowledge of collective bargaining here on every level, be it state or local, employer or management, is lacking. After these workers concluded, the matter was brought before the Personnel Committee for your consideration. Aside from a presentation that, in my opinion, was more a job interview for a pro-management employee law firm than an education opportunity, there was not much else provided, only asking you to submit your questions. When we don't know what we are talking about, how can we ask the right questions? In July, another draft was presented with even more problematic questions. Serious issues like bargaining class definitions and questions over transparency of elections were glossed over. However, even more concerning than the discussion was that not only was it the chairman of the committee absent, but so was the vice chair. In arguably one of the most pivotal meetings in this committee's existence, the committee leadership was absent. This was highly concerning. And I do want to just say, I know she's not here, but I'm glad to see Vice Chairman Gross back, and we really do appreciate her work on this. Finally, there was a new draft posted to the county website in August and updated in September, which more or less is what sits before you. Where was the discussion? Where was the education? Now let's compare this process to that of police reform. Police reform in Fairfax largely took place through the ad hoc commission and follow-up public safety and personnel committee meetings. The workforce was engaged, the community was engaged, and the board was engaged. The board not only had the benefit of the ad hoc commission reports, but also took advantage of committee meetings to provide education to the board to make the best decisions that they could. Even with these concerns overall, the ordinance is not bad and is a decent starting point. However, I bring two areas that are of concern regarding the bargaining classes and transparency, especially in the matter of elections. Bargaining classes should be limited to the FLSA threshold. I will speak to the matter in terms of the police department, as I don't feel myself equipped to address other public safety agencies or the wide-ranging and expansive employment categories of the general county. For police, this line comes above the rank of second lieutenant. Our rank of first lieutenant and above is considered command staff. As I speak with my brothers and sisters in the police department, I use an example of having a captain attend their roll call. Roll calls can be somewhat free-flowing and colorful events, as officers come in to get their assignments, discuss the previous shift, and prepare for the upcoming shift. But when a captain or a major shows up, the room is quiet, ramrod straight, some even trying to avoid eye contact. I recall the first time a major came to my roll call as a rookie. I was too scared to even turn around. I just remember their voice, and from the back of the room, congratulating us on something that happened the night before. Having large bargaining classes that encompass commanders, directors, chiefs, or executives will develop the same dynamic. They will not strengthen bargaining positions, but in fact weaken them, as those higher up in the organization can provide undue influence on the class. The youngest, weakest, and most vulnerable employees will be negatively impacted. I saw this power dynamic as well in the Pay and Benefits Committee that has been working on behalf of the department. At first, many thought we were a waste of time. And it was a handful of rank-and-file officers, detectives, and first-line supervisors that came together to better advocate. But when we started having success, others in higher ranks came. The discussions would often change from advocating for something for the rank-and-file to how it was impacting a commander rank, or a matter that was more of a concern for a commander would be brought up in a meeting. How likely are you to push back on contract issues against the person that potentially can fire you? Bargaining units must be focused on the rank-and-file employees so that they can work to create a stronger and healthier workforce. Secondly, transparency. While I've laid out issues on the lack of transparency in this process, the concerns don't stop there. There is little to no definition on election processes, with one of the greatest concerns that of administratively acceptable evidence that Mr. Cook just spoke to. What is that? Where is it defined? How will this information be verified? And the answer, the LRA will take care of it, is unacceptable. If you felt the need to list it in the ordinance, then it should be properly defined. As another matter of comparison, let's look at the process of the creation of the Civilian Review Panel. The board provided a clear framework for the CRP to operate. Even though the CRP developed its own bylaws, boundaries were established by this board. We failed to see where any of that is the case here. Consistent with prior practice of the county, we could enlist the advice and guidance of an outside entity like the National Labor Relations Board in an advisory capacity. This would help provide experienced and effective guidance so that all involved can believe that best practices are being developed and followed. We should not be making this up as we go along. This is too big. My biggest takeaway from this process is that I feel it puts on display just how the county feels about the workforce. I've always thought of the attitude of the county as rather paternalistic, sometimes even patronizing. You provide, and in many ways you provide well when you want to fund it. but disagreement can often be haughtily dismissed, as if we are petulant, ungrateful children. The phrase, "Don't you people know what we're trying to do for you?" has been uttered to me more than once. Employees feeling that their concerns or suggestions are simply dismissed feel no reason to engage and don't. This ordinance, in its current form, does nothing but codify that sentiment. Large bargaining classes will stifle rank-and-file employees from being fully engaged. A lack of transparency in education will lead many employees to believe that they can't trust the system or that they will not be effectively represented. I fear how long collective bargaining will last when built on such a shaky foundation. If you truly believe in developing a collective bargaining system that benefits our employees and will build a stronger workforce, then do not advance this ordinance tonight. Please go back to the process and develop an ordinance that works, that is transparent, that is equitable. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And Sean, you spoke for Speaker 16 and 17, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So that takes us to Speaker 18, Rafael Gil Figueroa. Is Rafael here? If you could come on down. Is Aaron Lamb here? Aaron, if you could come on down. And Tina Williams. I see Tina. You're okay right there, Tina. I just want to make sure people aren't, tripping coming down the steps. We've got a couple speakers before we get to you. Rafael, welcome. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much. As stated before, my name is Rafael Eduardo Gil Figueroa, and I am a proud member of the Fairfax County community, specifically the Hunter Mill District. Every day, residents like myself, my family, my friends, rely on the essential public services provided by Fairfax County employees. Without them, my father would be dead. Without them, my wife would be dead. I'm certain that everyone here personally knows or knows of someone who is still alive because of Fairfax County employees and the essential services they provide. This is why I believe that it is critical for county employees to have meaningful collective bargaining rights and a real seat at the table to negotiate for things they need to serve our community and to take care of their own families. Our county employees, mental health workers, first responders, child educators, and so many more keep our communities healthy, safe, and moving forward during this trying pandemic. They need a strong collective bargaining ordinance to keep themselves and their families healthy and safe like the rest of us. This ordinance has come a long way, but there are still important changes needed, as noted earlier. The time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. After all, as the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. The second best time is right now. We have no more time to waste. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes recommended by the unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. We must let the employees bargain over working conditions, health safety, staffing, scheduling, and disciplining. This is a core component of collective bargaining. We must let employees communicate, talk, and meet about their union freely in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. We cannot divide the workers. All county employees, including temporary workers, should have the right to bargain as a combined unit. Thank you for your time and attention. I yield my 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is speaker number 19, Denver Suppinger, who has joined us by phone. Denver, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Chairman, I can. Thank you.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman McKay and members of the Board of Supervisors. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to this life-changing ordinance. My name is Denver Suppinger. I am a proud resident of the Providence District, an advocate and volunteer of our illustrious county, and before you as a dedicated member of our committee and a co-president of the Fairfax Young Democrats, an organization with over 100 members and an organization who represents thousands in the county. These past 18 months have illuminated how much we depend on public service employees, from the teachers who've made miraculous reforms to continue to teach our children, to the custodians who work tirelessly to ensure that our public spaces were sanitized and open and safe for us. To our social services staff who have stepped up and taken on mountains of casework to address the immediate needs of residents in Fairfax County who have lost their jobs, lost their security, and overall footing. Our public sector workers have not stopped, even though some of us may have. They have been the main reason of why our county and communities have remained strong through these unprecedented times. But as you've heard, despite their dedication to our communities and to our county and to the people that you all represent, they fail to have a voice at the table when it comes to their work status and work conditions. They are barred from fighting for the things they need to ensure that they can continue to support their families and contribute back to our community. The ordinance before you sets a new norm in Fairfax County, one where public service employees could have a voice in the workplace. But as you've heard, it does need some changes. We need to create a norm where workers have the right to bargain over their working conditions, scheduling, and their safety and health conditions. We need an ordinance that levels the playing field and takes away the fear of retaliation for unionizing the workplace. And an ordinance that ensures that we bring together all county workers, regardless of their status, bring together all county workers, regardless of their status, so they can advocate for themselves, their loved ones, and their community. As a dedicated member of Fairfax County, and once again as the co-president of Fairfax Young Democrats, and a proud ally of our public sector workers, I implore you to pass the collective bargaining ordinance with these set changes. It is past time to unite all public sector workers and to allow them to have a voice at work. Please stand with our public sector employees, the backbone of Fairfax County government, and approve the collective bargaining ordinance. Thank you so much for your consideration. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Denver. Our next speaker is Aaron Lamb, who then will be followed by Tina Williams and Vanessa Hall. If Tina and Vanessa want to make their way down, and they will be speaker 21 and 22. For those following along, we're on speaker number 20. Aaron Lamb, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Aaron Lamb. I am a resident of the Hunter Mill District, a Fairfax County teacher, and a member of the Fairfax Education Association. While I don't have the same experiences as the thousands of other dedicated public service employees, I do stand in solidarity with them. I'm here this evening to advocate for collective bargaining for all county employees and to make visible the reality of an educator, which is invisible to those not in education. I would like to outline what my day looks like as an educator. I walk in and have hours of emails to attend to, and that's just since the last time I finally got caught up, yesterday. Some are students seeking help, past students telling me about high school, or parents sending a nice note. Those are the good ones. The other 95% are alerts about a new hour-long training video I must watch, another new duty, another new expectation, reminders to complete the 100th just one more thing, notifications that will be required to work hours after school for no additional pay. If there's been an update on that rule, I wouldn't know. I'm pretty behind on email. Then I need to grade those 130 tests, remediate the students needing help, write, schedule, and administer their test retakes, contact home, send progress reports, put the grades, codes, and comments in the gradebook, many of them twice. That reminds me, I've still got to put those homework grades in too. I would really like to do my lesson plans, but I have another meeting during my planning period today. I actually wanted those plans done yesterday, but I had to cover a class because there's a substitute teacher shortage across this county. I'll do it tonight after the staff meeting, which is also after school. You know, that creative, engaging project that I'd really hoped to do, that's going to have to wait till next year. I wish I'd had time to organize it. And that's my day before my students even walk into my classroom. But in spite of these headwinds, no one in a school knows students better than those who interact with them most. We know their strengths and weaknesses. We know what motivates them, what they respond to, and how to help each student in the way they need help. Yet when the time comes to make important decisions that impact students, our voices are overlooked. Who does make the decisions? People who've not seen the inside of a classroom in a very long time. Advocates for collective bargaining want the voices that have the greatest impact on students' futures to matter. In practice, this means having a say in the decision-making that affects our day-to-day. We only want the time to do our jobs effectively, the freedom to do them well, and fair pay for a fair amount of work. And I have one last paragraph, if you would allow me to.
Keep it quickly,
Thank you.
please.
Engineers, accountants, doctors, lawyers, and other professionals call the shots in their respective roles because they are the ones who are trusted to know best. So why are teachers and educators so often shut out of teaching? We need educator voices in education, and we can have them. All county employees deserve a stronger voice, and that is achieved through collective bargaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Our next speaker is speaker number 21, Tina Williams. Tina. Welcome, Tina. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair McKay, members of the board, and this community. I'm Tina Williams, president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers Union, AFT 2401. It is my privilege to speak today on the importance of passing a meaningful ordinance that includes bargaining over working conditions, rights regarding open discussion about unions in the work setting, and a process that allows all of your county employees a seat at this table. Public employees in 47 other states and Washington, D.C. already have collective bargaining rights. Arlington and Alexandria also have passed collective bargaining ordinances. It's time for our county to join them to pass a meaningful collective bargaining ordinance. We were so pleased when the General Assembly passed the collective bargaining legislation that restores access for workers in our county to have the ability to bargain for resources that they need. Nurses, mental health workers, adult care workers, first responders, child care providers, maintenance and custodial workers, to name a few, know what is needed to most effectively serve, protect, and support our community. And so, we welcome the decision to include them in this process. Having a voice in the process means perspectives from the front lines in order to work together with our elected officials will ensure that our workers have good jobs while our community stays safe and receives the wonderful programs, services, and protections that they need and deserve. When workers are able to negotiate with their employers to improve their working environments, it gives all public employees the ability to become a voice for their clients, students, and members of the community who rely on them. When managers and employees can meet at the bargaining table, together we will find meaningful solutions. I want to acknowledge that the ordinance has come quite a long way, but there are still important changes needed. The time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. A meaningful, strong, effective ordinance must also contain these essential elements: the ability to negotiate on working conditions such as health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline; to provide open communication for employees to meet and discuss their union freely in their workplace without the fear of retaliation; inclusion of all county workers in collective bargaining. Excluding temporary employees is divisive, unfair, and it does not address the needs of our community. This is a defining moment. Fairfax County can set the standard in Virginia by being the model for a sound, meaningful, and impactful collective bargaining ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. Speaker number 22 is Vanessa Hall. Vanessa, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Vanessa. I'm a 26-year resident of Fairfax County, graduate of FCPS, go TJ, and an active volunteer in the community and in our schools. I remember my mom picketing with fellow social workers for safer conditions and better pay. I was scared because protesting sounded revolutionary and unladylike, but I was about 9 and pretty naive. Obviously, I'm older now. My mom's willingness to fight for what was right has been instilled in me, which is why I'm here today. Of course, I know that she was willing to fight only because she was able to fight for her rights. Without safe work conditions and adequate pay and benefits, she was more likely to leave her job for something more lucrative, thereby increasing turnover and training costs for the welfare agency. Such lack of stability ultimately harms the families who rely on the social worker's knowledge, skill, and training for support. As a parent of 2 FCPS students, I see the lack of collective bargaining has caused instability in our schools. This year, I've watched amazing teachers that I know and love leave because without collective bargaining, it was easier to leave because they were legally prevented from fighting to stay. Yet the benefits of Fairfax County schools are clear. Teachers enabled my anxious and, sorry, I'm having trouble breathing, and severely dyslexic daughter to read. Before identification and intervention by a host of FCPS employees, my then 6-year-old was so anxious that she would hit herself and cry, "I'm so stupid," every time I asked her to read. But now, through this intervention, she's a happy, healthy 7th grader who's reading nearly at grade level due to the interventions of special education staff who help her be successful in and out of school. My mom, known as Nana to my daughter, was a social worker in the SEIU in Pennsylvania, but she became a beloved and successful Fairfax County realtor with Long & Foster when we moved to Virginia. She is now in failing health with cognitive issues, and my family requires daily help with her care. Who do I want to love and care for my mom when we cannot? I want a home health care worker who will provide quality and loving care for my mom. I want a well-trained, appropriately compensated, and consistent caregiver who's willing to advocate for my mom, but who's also legally permitted to advocate for themselves. Collective bargaining will benefit workers and their families and all Virginians, from the youngest in daycare to older Virginians who require thoughtful and specialized care as they age. When workers have a voice, they use it to support themselves and their community. Please give them a voice in their community. I represent 3 generations asking that you approve collective bargaining so that Virginians, public employees, have the right to fight to be the best. And I'm not associated with the union. I'm honestly just a parent who really loves teachers and loves public workers. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We're now on speaker number 23, John Bailey, who has submitted a video testimony.
Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, County Executive Brian Hill, Fairfax County residents, and everybody joining us here tonight. My name is John Bailey. I'm a lieutenant and paramedic with the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, an executive board member of IAFF Local 2068, and an advocate and member of the LGBTQ+ community. I want to speak to you all today about why this collective bargaining ordinance is such an important achievement for Fairfax County, its workers, and its citizens. As a black gay man, I have placed equity within my community as one of the biggest tenets in my personal life and my career. Diving into history to explore where we have made progress and where we have fallen backwards in the movement towards a more equitable society has been a critical part of that work. In her book, The Sum of Us, Heather McGhee, in part, explores how unionization helped to close equity gaps in the United States, and how the destruction of unions and collective bargaining in the wake of the Civil Rights Movement allowed those gaps to widen again. But these losses in racial equity don't just hurt minority communities. They also have led to stagnating wages among all racial groups. This ordinance is a big step, not only in eliminating racial and social inequity, the goal of your One Fairfax initiative, but also benefits every working person in this region, regardless of race. Collective bargaining is the chance for workers and county leadership to work together to make a better Fairfax. Because, as Heather McGhee makes clear, we are greater than and greater for the sum of us.
Thank you. Our next speaker is speaker number 24. Speaker number 24 is Robert Young, who is here. He's going to be followed by speaker 25, Brian Edmondson. Is Brian here? Brian is. Come on down. And he will be followed by speaker number 26, Matt Lopez, who I know is here, if you want to come on down. Robert, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman McKay, Executive Hill, members of the board. I'm Robert Young, Vice President of Local 2068, Fairfax County Firefighters and Paramedics. It's with extreme pride and joy that I stand before you today to talk about adoption of a collective bargaining ordinance here in Fairfax County. In January of 2020, this was just a vision. As labor advocates, we traveled to Richmond hoping to make the lives of the workers in the Commonwealth better. In Richmond, we walked the legislative hallways in unity. We explained to the legislature the tremendous benefits of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining will be beneficial to not only the employees, but also the residents and visitors. After months of traveling to Richmond, phone calls, and emails, the vision became a reality. The governor signed legislation that allowed you, the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, to decide, and decide you did. You decided to show the employees here at Fairfax that you value us. You decided to show you decided to allow the employees to meet with you to help formulate the path forward. You decided to be a leader in proving that Virginia and Fairfax County is not just the best for business, but with this, Fairfax would also be the best for its workers. I stand here today on behalf of the members of Fairfax County Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, Local 2068, and all of the employees of the Fairfax Fire and Rescue Department to say thank you. Growing up, seeing the changes and sometimes difficult times, I have a great appreciation for what you're about to do here in Fairfax. When my mother was an employee at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. for many years, she found herself suddenly and unexpectedly laid off without any warning. There was no agreement, no process, no advocacy, no severance, and no recourse. Years later, as a union bus driver, my mother was presented with similar challenges, but this time it was very different. Because of predetermined agreements between the employer and the union, my mother did not have to worry about tomorrow. She did not have to worry about how she would provide meals for her children, pay the electric bill, or the mortgage. Because of collective bargaining, she knew exactly what to expect. Now I look forward to the day when I can come to work and not have to worry about sudden change or uncertainty. Finally, if I make but one request, I'd like to encourage the board to adopt the suggested amendments to Section 3-4-10. Doing so will solidify your desire to have a meaningful ordinance. Adoption of the amendment would ensure the workers here in Fairfax that we have a rightful place at our shared table to discuss critical topics. I think I speak for all the members when I say that we look forward to the day when we can sit down collectively and decide how to make Fairfax best for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Our next speaker is speaker number 25, Brian Edmondson. Brian, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman McKay, members of the board, Board of Supervisors, County Executive Hill, and other senior leadership staff. I'm here along with others to express the support for the proposed collective bargaining ordinance. And a little about me. I'm born in the county, a resident of the county, employee in my 20th year, and a battalion chief of Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, a member of Local 2068, and president of the Officers Association. I'm a second-generation public safety individual. My dad and uncle are retired from the county as we speak. The OA represents all officers in the FRD. We are a diverse group of individuals with a myriad of backgrounds that is reflective of our population. Representing the OA, we are looking to create a stronger voice, an inclusionary, equitable, and representative process that improves the quality of life for all, employees, our residents, and visitors. Collective bargaining is a collaborative, inclusionary process which amplifies our personnel's voice through the rank of firefighter through deputy chief when it comes to compensation, benefits, and work-life balance. Each of the ranks I mentioned below are out tonight. They're out tonight protecting all of us and protecting the community and our constituents. Collective bargaining creates a balance of mixed parameters through proportional representation. ensuring a diverse group has a seat at the bargaining table to present the needs of the workforce and work to retain these individuals for future leadership positions down the road. The challenge ahead for all of us is to incentivize the 21st century worker to begin to work here, and to stay working within Fairfax County. Fairfax County has a long and storied tradition of being the leader in the region, but we've potentially lost a step, maybe two. Competition is fierce in the public and private sector, specifically related to public safety. Hiring difficulties are readily evident for both sworn and support staff alike. Furthermore, to develop good officers, leaders for future of the organization, retention of diverse and highly trained firefighters is paramount, and collective bargaining provides this conduit to meet this need. Some have mentioned what lies ahead is an upcoming second labor movement. If this holds true, let's get ahead, get to the bargaining table, and support and compensate our workforce, and lead the way once again. If we don't, we neglect the workforce, we will lose talented, hardworking people. Thus, the quality of services provided diminish. We begin to fail to meet the service demands of those we serve in the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. We are on speaker number 26, Matt Lopez. Matt, welcome. The floor is yours.
Need to get my eyes out. Good evening, Chairman McKay, Board of Supervisors, County Executive Hill, and staff. I come before you this evening to express my support for the proposed collective bargaining ordinance. Not only as a resident of Fairfax County for 28 years, Springfield District, as a county employee for over 26 years in the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, as a loyal member of IAFF Local 2068 for over 26 years, as a member of the Fairfax Hispanic Firefighters Association for the last 15 years, but most importantly this evening, as the president of the Fairfax Hispanic Firefighters Association for the last 2 years. The Fairfax Hispanic Firefighters Association was founded in 2003 to assist the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department in delivering a bilingual life safety education programs to the community, and to develop and strengthen Hispanic firefighter leaders with knowledge and expertise to better represent the growing and diverse workforce. Our organization represents career and civilian employees and volunteers of the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department and employees of the Department of Public Safety Communications. Our organization is a local affiliate of the National Association of Hispanic Firefighters. We support this ordinance. We understand the implication of the actions it proposes and what it in fact does not. I studied local and statewide collective bargaining ordinances and agreements in graduate school. What is being proposed is both commonsensical and practical. It clearly identifies the parameters for establishing a bargaining unit, rules for electing a bargaining group, and a process for negotiating a collective bargaining agreement between the county and the elected bargaining group. It does not disenfranchise legacy employee groups. In fact, it provides a mechanism for these groups to engage with the elected bargaining group independently with the department's leadership and with this board. This process is spelled out in the ordinance, but it has recently been misinterpreted by some and used as a political wedge issue to undermine its adoption. This ordinance will afford a clear process and role for non-elected bargaining group employee organizations to engage with this board and the leadership of our departments. The Fairfax Hispanic Firefighters Association stands in support of the proposed collective bargaining ordinance and asks that this board adopt and implement it for the benefit of county leadership, employees, and citizens. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Our next speaker is Joe Morrell, who has submitted video testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Morrell, and I'm a 16-year member of the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, currently serving as the captain of Engine 5 in Franconia. I'm also an executive board member of Local 2068, representing the Tyson Corner area of the department. I have spent the majority of my career advocating for improvements in how the department operates. I'm not alone in this. Your firefighters are constantly bringing forward ideas and proposals affecting working conditions and operations. Regrettably, these ideas often fall on deaf ears. That is unfortunate because every proposal or idea that a department member brings forward has one goal: to improve service to the community. I urge you to make mandatory, not permissive, bargaining on all subjects related to wages, benefits, and working conditions. This should not be viewed as an attempt to rewrite every aspect of county policy. Mandatory bargaining on all topics will simply allow employees, collaboratively with Fairfax County leadership, the opportunity to make changes on policies that are impeding service to the community. We have a functional local government. Making all aspects of employment mandatory to discuss does not mean a change. It simply means we do not have to ask special permissions to negotiate certain topics. These are normal topics to discuss, and they're at the heart of the concept of collective bargaining nationwide. By passing a broad collective bargaining ordinance, you give the members who have already chosen to dedicate a career to public service the opportunity to become more engaged in the work we do for the citizens of Fairfax. When firefighters are more engaged in their job, the result is only positive. To put it bluntly, members who feel heard perform better. Our ideas are currently heard as a courtesy, but they are rarely acted on. It's time to move your firefighters from having a seat at the table to having a vote at the table. Collective bargaining will allow your firefighters to legally and formally engage in talks with both county and departmental leadership, just like the firefighters behind me in Texas do. This is an incredible opportunity to cut through red tape and give each member a true voice and a vote in improving service to the public.
Thank you very much, Joe. Our next speaker is speaker number 28, Eric Villman, who has yielded his time to speaker number 34, Ron Cooley. Ron, did you want to go now or did you want to wait till later? Okay. All right. Welcome.
Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Alyssa Vance. I am a firefighter paramedic with Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, a member of Local 2068, and the president of the Women Firefighters Association. We work as the Women's Association. We work with all of the employee groups in fire and rescue to promote equity, empowerment. We work for a collaborative and collective voice and believe this collective bargaining should move forward in our county. We have a voice to protect our community to the highest level possible with equipment, new staffing, safe staffing levels, and career longevity. We look for collaboration with public safety and county administrators so that there is one voice for all employees and groups. This civic model allows our community to be a leader in improving public services with including communication and collaboration for the same goal. We all want to reach our public service and provide safety for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. And Alyssa was speaker number 32, which takes us to speaker number 29, Brian Chin. This is not Brian Chin.
Nope.
This is Ron Cooley. Ron, did you want to take your slot now, or were you taking
We're going to
Brian?
scratch, I think, Chin, Corbin, and there was another name there we'll look at.
So that's speaker number 29.
We'll try to make this more efficient and effective, just like collective bargaining will do for you.
Okay. Let's do that. We are scrapping speaker number 29 and also Ty Corbin.
Yep.
And we have before us Ron Cooley,
All right.
President of IAFF. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman McKay, Vice Chair Gross, members of the board, County Executive Hill. My name is Ron Cooley, lifelong resident of Fairfax County, 29-year employee of Fairfax County, and I'm proud to stand before you as the president of Fairfax County Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, Local 2068. We represent nearly 2,000 firefighters, paramedics, fire prevention staff, and our great public safety communicators at the 911 Center, all of whom serve this community with distinction every day. In fact, we successfully represent all ranks within the Fire and Rescue Department. Today, we will have a chance to make history, and this is a rare opportunity to enhance the emergency services we deliver in your districts, communities, neighborhoods, and business community. But for this to happen, we need you, the Board of Supervisors, to make sure that firefighters and the other great public employees that work for Fairfax County have a greater voice at work through collective bargaining, or as you've heard me say, collaborative bargaining. And let's be clear, the speakers, beginning with Lieutenant John Bailey and ending with myself, are truly the qualified ones to speak on behalf of our members in fire and rescue. Nearly 50 years ago, this county was a leader when, together with Firefighters Union Local 2068, we broke through the barrier and implemented collective bargaining. We had it in place for close to 4 years. All of the scary stories you hear from the naysayers that what was going to happen with collective bargaining or is going to happen never happened. Unfortunately, collective bargaining became a political football, and the state Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. In fact, collective bargaining provided the template and success that we know today as our great fire and rescue department. Last year, legislators in Richmond passed legislation that truly helps the workers of this great Commonwealth. And now we are here looking at the most dramatic change in our labor law in decades. By providing firefighters a real voice, the collective voice of experts, trained and educated professionals, it's the best way to meet the residents' needs in an emergency. We will better be able to meet your needs and challenges in a time of crisis. In thousands of other communities across this great country, collective bargaining ensures that when you call 911, it's handled by professionals more swiftly and effectively. As we collaborate with Fairfax County leaders to offer the best services for taxpayers, working to make this a better place to live and work, we have heard some negative comments regarding our collective bargaining efforts. Those naysayers, they're saying untruths, backed with no factual research or evidence. And what are they worried about? What's the concern? This is the type of stuff that we have to listen to and that we're looking at. This is based on false narratives causing division among our ranks, causing a division among the community based on false narratives. Mask is getting to me, sorry. They do this and do not want to engage in facts. And I welcome those discussions when they're ready to have those discussions. But let's be positive. We believe in a term, a quote, that's been with Local 2068 for 50 years. Strength through unity. I stand with my sisters and brothers. Strength through unity. That's how we've been successful. So let's talk about positive. Public employee collective bargaining. According to the Economic Analysis and Research Network, collective bargaining for public sector employees, coupled with labor management partnerships, has been effective at improving agency performance and reducing employee turnover. They say high turnover makes it hard to provide quality service to residents, reduces the efficiency and effectiveness of agencies, puts a strain on workers, and burdens taxpayers. Research shows that allowing employees to negotiate with their employer through a collective bargaining process for better pay, benefits, working conditions, it helps lower turnover rates, saves taxpayers millions, and improves services. Let's use my department for an example. Every time we lose a firefighter to another jurisdiction because they offer better pay and have better working conditions, it costs the county close to $150,000 to recruit and train a replacement. And while we're proud, the experience lost to taxpayers is invaluable. And one last thing. The Economic Policies Institute says collective bargaining helps close the wage gaps faced by women and people of color by promoting equal pay for equal work while increasing job and workplace satisfaction. So here we are now. We've been meeting to determine the terms and conditions of our ongoing relationship. Our county works best when the county leadership and professional firefighters work together as a team. A meaningful collective bargaining ordinance and agreements allows for that to happen. And of course, we're going to maintain an incredible positive and productive relationship in order for our employees and management to work efficiently together. By the way, when that happens, we find efficiencies, and we want to find ways to save taxpayers money. We've been proven to do that. We've brought solutions to you. But we've never really been fully, formally recognized. The facts are, when unions are weak, the middle class weakens. When union membership declines, we see middle class income shrinking. Unions are essential to workplace of the future. We are the recruiters. We are making our jobs more secure, stable, and attractive. We make workers' lives better. Strengthening and increasing our union members will help balance the economy. Quite simply, you want a better America? Support unions. True and meaningful collective bargaining provides firefighters a greater voice, a direction of the public safety, and that will improve the quality of life for everyone who lives, works, or visits here. Collaborative bargaining is our voice. Having a voice is the most important safety tool we have. It's the key to our staffing, training, equipment, fair living wages, and an opportunity to retire with dignity. Every day we put our lives on the line for the residents and visitors of our great county. And now we have the ability to collectively bargain for our safety and wages and working conditions, to protect our families as we protect your families, all in the spirit of collaboration. Every day you see and hear about your Fairfax firefighters at all ranks doing a great job in this community. Working together, we are always searching for new ways and opportunities to enhance the vital emergency services we deliver. It is our years of experience and operational knowledge of the dangers and expertise and studies that we have of firefighting makes our voice extremely valuable as we respond to your crisis. In closing, there is a feeling I get in my heart that collective bargaining is the foundation that can improve the effectiveness of labor management partnerships that will be in our community for decades to come. This is yours and our legacy. This is why your firefighters are asking you, our great Board of Supervisors, to support a strong system of collective bargaining so that provides firefighters and other public servants a meaningful voice in the delivery of the services we provide every day. Thank you for listening. Look forward to having discussions with you all very soon.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
Thank you, Ron, and I know you spoke for a number of folks. I just want to make sure I don't skip anyone here. Were you speaking also for Jamal Hudson? Yep. Okay, and Tom Tippett and Ty Corbin. Yep. Excellent. Yep. Thank you very much, Ron. Our next speaker then is Ali Sohelian. Is Ali here? Is Ali here? I have her testifying in person. Speaker number 35. Going down. Okay. Him. I'm sorry about that. He is on his way down, president of Virginia Police Benevolent Association, and he will be followed by Tammy Wongdong and Winifred Allen, who I know are both here if you want to come on down a little bit closer. Welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman McKay, honorable members of the board, county staff. When I got here tonight, I had a couple members that are sitting right out here in this audience that said that I shouldn't even bother presenting and that this was going to fall on deaf ears, that you guys have been here all day. It's already been decided. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. With my experience with you guys, that hasn't been the case. So with that said, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Ali Sohelian. I'm the president of the Fairfax County chapter of the Virginia PBA. Our organization represents over 700 officers employed by the Fairfax County Police Department. We are the largest active employee group. I have submitted my recommendations for the CBA ordinance for your review and email beforehand. I got a copy for the clerk as well, just in case. With that being said, I want to take this time and explain specific items that I want our ordinance to be able to address. I'm not looking for a response here tonight. I know you guys have a lot on your plate after everything that you've heard today. I just wanted to present some of the important issues facing our department today that we can get right with collective bargaining. If we do this right, we will set the standard for other localities in the state, making us the premium choice in the region. Collective bargaining should be beneficial in the following scenarios where the county has failed us and failed our employees before. Some of the examples from this past year, when the county shuts down all of our buildings to the public, they publish an operating status that says our buildings are closed to the public. They put around 10,000 of the 12,000 employees on a 6-week pandemic leave, then tells our essential workers that are required to respond in that they will get it on the back end, and they don't. We would like the ability to address that. When the county gives manager-level employees a 6-week leave bank that's approximately valued at $14,000 for the lowest-level managers in the police department, but not for our dispatchers, our police citizen aides, and our officers, we want the ability to address that. When the county closes the county to the public but refuses to formally acknowledge it to their employees in the middle of a worldwide pandemic to prevent from having to pay hazard pay with a $201 million stimulus fund in their pocket, we want the ability to address that. When teleworkers and managers get a COVID bonus, but our police citizen aides, our dispatchers, our other frontline workers that got COVID were put on a leave status due to getting COVID, don't get that pay, we want the ability to address that. We have smaller things like holiday pay that should be on an hour-for-hour basis. Right now, if a detective works on a holiday to help with staffing, they'll only get 8 hours of holiday pay, while the patrol officer next to them will get 11.5 for working the same 11.5-hour shift. They're working the same assignment. This ordinance should let us address that. When our senior employees miss their longevity steps due to the county exec's discretion on a personnel regulation that is written as a shall and an entitlement, we would like the ability to address that. When our employees that work 12-hour shifts don't get enough bereavement leave because it's capped at 16 hours, where they can't even get 2 days off to grieve a lost loved one, we would like the ability to address that. When our employees grieve a disciplinary action and the appeal follows the same chain of command that's not only pre-approved the discipline, but oftentimes guided the investigation, we want the ability to address that and give them a fair grievance process. When county leaders such as yourself ask why a majority of us don't live in the county, while knowing that we've been skipped over for 14% of cost of living adjustments alone, we would like the ability to address that. When our previous administration submitted the wrong data for the most recent pay study and wouldn't correct it knowing it showed inflated and false compensation data, we would like to address that. For the record, the accurate data would have shown the need for a 20% increase for our ranks of officer to second lieutenant to put us back on top in the region. You should act on that now, or you won't have much of a workforce to collectively bargain with next year. The people in Fairfax deserve the best police department, and you can make that happen with that increase. There's no other jurisdiction our size with our challenges in population with such a low corresponding crime rate in the National Capital Region. We are the premium agency, but surrounding agencies continue to get paid more than us, and they keep stepping beyond us, and we'd like the ability to address that. In closing, we're not asking to make these automatic. These are just some of the issues that need to be addressed with collective bargaining. We're not asking to fix these issues overnight, like the Board of Supervisors did with a simple vote when you guys approved yourselves a 26% pay raise to the tune of $20,000 a year back in 2015. We're simply asking for the ability to bargain and advocate for our employees, for your workforce, to make this the premium choice of employment in the region. And if we do that, we will become leaders again, and our chairman won't have to go on a national broadcast trying to convince others that we're competitive with our peers. If we get this done right, you all can confidently proclaim that we are the best destination and the choice employer in the region as others try to convince their recruits that they can in fact compete with us. So we say yes to collective bargaining. We want it done now, but we would like it done right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We are now on speaker number 36. Speaker number 36 is Tammy Wandong. Tammy, welcome. She will be followed by Winifred Allen and Tamika Wells. If you all are here, can you please come on down so you're a little bit closer? And Tammy, welcome. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Chairman McKay, Board of Supervisors, and County Executive Hill. We just want to acknowledge for a minute that we thank you for your entire day and evening listening to the testimonies. I'm Tammy Wandong. I'm the president of the Fairfax County Government Employees Union. I have worked for the county for 32 years. I presently work in family services in the adult and aging division. Thank you for your leadership on collective bargaining. I have been part of, I'm going to pull this down a little bit because my glasses are foggy. Thank you for your leadership on collective bargaining. I have been part of the county's stakeholder meetings on collective bargaining and intimately involved in those discussions. At every meeting, I spoke about what it will take to create meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. I am here to speak today to urge you to get it right. And that means bringing meaningful collective bargaining to all workers in Fairfax County. My comments this evening is as a union member. Our union members are dedicated to serving the public. We are social workers, healthcare workers, sanitation workers, mechanics, child care workers, janitors, food service workers, and so much more. We keep Fairfax running. Our members agree that meaningful collective bargaining is good and necessary to improve jobs and the service we provide. I hear it all the time from members and other staff throughout Fairfax because we live and work in these environments every day. We know what needs to change, and we know how to get it done. And we are not alone. Recent polling shows 68% of Virginia voters strongly support public service employees having collective bargaining rights. Consider that public employees in 47 other states have the right to collectively bargain. Virginia employees should have that right as well. Here are things we want to make sure that the county gets right in this ordinance. Permit bargaining over the full range of wages, benefits, and working conditions so that we improve our jobs and recruit the best and brightest to Fairfax County. Include G status, temporary, part-time, and probationary employees to ensure that they also have a seat at the negotiation table. Ensure that we can have access to talk to our coworkers at work so that we can talk about our union and our union contract. These are matters that must be addressed in the current draft of the ordinance. If we don't get this right, the ordinance that we have all worked so hard to pass will be nothing but an empty gesture on a piece of paper. Together with meaningful collective bargaining rights, we can fix employment problems in Fairfax. According to the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis, Fairfax County employees are often paid too little to achieve economic security for a family living in Fairfax. To make matters worse, according to a recent report by the Economic Policy Institute, local government employees, public employees in Virginia are typically paid 29.9% less than their private sector peers. Also, turnover rates for county employees are high, which has direct costs in terms of training and recruitment, and also reduces the quality of services as employees are stretched thin trying to do multiple jobs. Good employees are leaving because their needs are not met. This adds to the drain and strain of the remaining staff. Collective bargaining benefits everyone, not just employees, because the changes we need will directly improve the services we provide and the community we support. By working together and with meaningful collective bargaining, we can increase retention and reduce turnover of staff, improve public services and joint work procedures, improve workplace health and safety, help close racial and gender pay gaps, and so much more if we get this right. Yeah, one more sentence. Tonight, you will hear from many of our union members from the various departments in the county. They are here tonight to share their stories about what meaningful collective bargaining means to them and why it's critical that we get this ordinance right. We appreciate this opportunity to share our stories and concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tammy. Our next speaker is speaker number 37, who is Winifred Allen. Will be followed by Tamika Wells, who I know is here. Winifred, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Good evening. My name is Winifred Allen. I'm a licensed marriage, family, child therapist, and I work in CSB, better known as the Community Services Board. I am also a proud member of SEIU Virginia 512. I am speaking today as a union member.
Please put the mask up over your face.
Okay.
That is required in this room. Thank you.
Okay. Mental health crisis intervention and psychiatric services are an essential and necessary part of what Fairfax County provides the community. Without mental health services, many in our community would suffer far greater mental health crises. During COVID-19, the demand for mental health services soared. Mental health clinicians prior to COVID-19 already served the most vulnerable populations. The untold story of mental health clinicians who worked through COVID-19 not having the option to work from home, or mental health clinicians who contracted COVID and who are now struggling with their own anxiety and health issues, is often not heard. It is hard work, but we do it because we are passionate about the work and we care for our community and our clients. Unfortunately, many therapists and psychiatric staff are leaving because they are not getting the support they need to do the work. It should be without question that all county workers should have the right to negotiate over wages, benefits, and working conditions. Limiting the scope of what we can negotiate and denying workers the freedom to speak about their union in the workplace completely undermines the purpose of collective bargaining rights. Without this, nothing will change, and workers and services will continue to suffer. Part-time and full-time workers deserve the same rights. A part-time clinician should have the same rights as a full-time clinician because we are doing the same work. The numbers of hours do not matter because all of our work has merit. I urge this board to uphold its commitment to its workers and pass a strong collective bargaining contract that will benefit all county workers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Our next speaker is Tamika Wells, to be followed by Ricky Brown, who has submitted a YouTube testimony, to be followed by Luke Del Vecchio in person. Go ahead, Ms. Wells.
Good evening, Chair McKay and members of the board. My name is Tamika Wells, and I'm an Adult Protective Services social worker in the Adult and Aging Division, and I'm a proud member of SEIU Virginia 512. My comments this evening is as of a union member. Thank you for your commitment to collective bargaining, but we want to see an ordinance that brings meaningful collective bargaining rights for all county workers. We must address three things. First, do not divide us. All county workers from part-time to full-time should receive the same rights to collective bargaining for improvements on the job. Second, we need the ability to meet and talk about our union and our union contracts freely without feeling retaliation. Third, don't limit our scope of collective bargaining. This must include the right to negotiate wages, benefits, and working conditions. In the current ordinance, this is the biggest concern for me because as an essential workers, my colleagues and I have been working nonstop, even through the pandemic. We need the ability to negotiate workloads and staffing levels. We need to be able to address our working conditions to ensure the safety of our staff and clients, and we should be compensated fairly for the work we do. I was so frustrated to have contracted COVID in January, knowing that the family COVID leave benefit had expired the month before. The benefit ended, but still, we was impacted every day, and even though, I'm sorry, the benefit ended, but COVID still is here, impacting workers every day. Sadly, I was forced to use 2 weeks of sick leave to accommodate my lost wages. Without that leave, I would have lost 2 full weeks of pay. No one should have the burden of such loss, especially when the work is high, especially when we work in high situations. If we had a meaningful collective bargaining rights, we would have extended this benefit to protect all essential workers in the midst of the pandemic. We must be able to negotiate our wages, benefits, and working conditions. It is the foundation of collective bargaining. Allowing anything less will make the ordinance useless. Please don't break your promise to us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Our next speaker is Ricky Brown, who has submitted testimony.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ricky Brown, and I've been a county employee for 22 and a half years. I'm speaking as a union member and not on behalf of Fairfax County. I am an IT auditor and I work in the Internal Audit Office. We make recommendations to improve county processes and oftentimes can result in cost reductions. We also make recommendations to improve the security of county computer systems and the security of the information stored in those systems. In my first year at Fairfax County, 10 months into my term, my first year, I was given a evaluation that said I was not performing satisfactorily. I had not received any previous notice of any performance deficiency. I advocated for myself and prevented myself from being terminated. I was given my probation was extended 6 months, and for the remaining part of my term in that department, I received satisfactory evaluations, but my ratings were so low that I received only small pay increases. There are many employees that experience something similar and some worse. Disciplinary action should be included in the workplace conditions, as well as address health, safety, and staffing. Employees should be allowed to speak and communicate about the union without fear of retaliation. And the collective bargaining agreement should also include temporary and probationary employees. These employees are often more vulnerable than other employees, and they often endure difficult environments and harsh treatment because of fear of losing their jobs. These are the items that I think that should be, or that are very important to be included in the collective bargaining agreement. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this public hearing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luke Del Vecchio, followed by Jennifer Parker. Is Jennifer Parker here? And Alyssa Blake. Is Alyssa Blake here? Please come down toward the middle so that you can be quick in your transition. Go ahead, Mr. Del Vecchio.
Thank you. My name is Luke Del Vecchio, and I've served as a lifeguard for Fairfax County Park Authority for 5 years, and I've been a lifelong resident of the county. I'm also a member of SEIU Virginia 512. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my union. I am a part-time employee, as are most of my coworkers that work at the county rec centers. While I'm fortunate to work year-round as an E-status employee, there's no job security, and I must work a second job to make ends meet. Many of my coworkers are G-status, making only $10 an hour when most other lifeguards and rec workers are making $3 to $4 more an hour working at facilities in other counties, in the DMV, or for private companies. Sadly, part-time workers are often marginalized and undervalued, simply because they work no more than 3 days a week. But the county rec centers could not function without our valuable day-to-day contributions. At the pools, we serve as lifeguards, ensuring the safety of the public, working with chemicals to keep the pools clean, and responding to life-threatening emergencies. The work we do is important, high risk, and requires skill, preparedness, and dedication. Many rec centers are suffering from short staffing and have been for some time. Over the summer, we were responsible for guarding the lives of hundreds of people who came through our facility every day, many of them young children and senior citizens. We did this often with only 3, sometimes only 2 lifeguards working at a time. Most were first-year lifeguards because experienced people keep leaving for better paying and less stressful jobs with more room for advancement. If this continues, it is only a matter of time before it results in tragic consequences. Collective bargaining benefits workers and the residents we serve. You should partner with temporary, part-time, and probationary staff to fix these issues because we are the ones dealing with it daily. Do not divide us. Also, the ordinance must include freedom of access for us to meet and talk about our union and the ability to negotiate wages, benefits, and working conditions. I strongly urge you to get this right. We do not want to be divided from other general county employees or working in second-class status. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Deverfield. Our next speaker is Jennifer Parker, followed by Alyssa Blake. We are on speaker number 41. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Parker. I'm a social worker with the Fairfax County Health Department Health Integration Team. We are a small multidisciplinary team embedded in the federally qualified healthcare clinics, and we strive to make healthcare equitable and accessible to all county residents. I am speaking tonight as a union member, and I'm here to talk to you about developing a strong collective bargaining ordinance. I was never much of a history buff until my first son was born 5 weeks after 9/11. I realized then that every day we are living through history, and every day is an opportunity to make history. Today we are again standing on the brink of history as we move towards a strong collective bargaining ordinance. I believe this action is a continuation of the county's endeavor to end injustices and inequity throughout our community. The One Fairfax policy, for example, is the outcome of our ongoing effort to end racial and social inequity in Fairfax County. One Fairfax requires the Board of Supervisors to, quote, consider equity in decision-making and in the development and delivery of future policies, programs, and services, end quote. One of the defining outcomes of a decade of research is the importance of direct, open communication between county leaders and community members. If we are brave enough to talk about these issues openly, then surely we are brave enough to talk about the needs of county workers. The values and principles that are the foundation of One Fairfax are also the underpinning of our recommendations for collective bargaining ordinance. If you believe in One Fairfax, and if you believe in equity, then you must believe in a strong collective bargaining ordinance as a means to open a conversation with your work family members. We are here to tell you today that there is still work that needs to be done. This time, however, it is with the community of workers that you lead. With this focus in mind, I am here to ask for your collaboration on a strong collective bargaining ordinance. Allow us to share with you our concerns by passing a broad ordinance that includes the full range of working conditions, not just pay and benefits. It must let us communicate and meet about our union freely in the workplace without fear of retaliation. And finally, these rights should cover all county workers, including temporary and probationary workers. Thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to working with you all in the future as we get ready to make history in Fairfax County again. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alyssa Blake, to be followed by Norm Hall and Geronimo Robinson. Go ahead.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Elisa Blake. I'm a head teacher for the Fairfax County School-Age Child Care, or SAC program. I'm speaking today as a member of Union SCIU Virginia 512. I would like to start by saying the Fairfax County SAC department employs incredibly talented child care workers. We all care so deeply about our children and families, and we want to continue to provide the highest standard of child care. Through innovative programming, we engage with children and spark their curiosity of the world around them. We work tirelessly to help them develop critical thinking proficiency, interpersonal skills, and problem-solving techniques, all while keeping them safe during a global pandemic. In 2020, we were among the first to offer full-day childcare and to teach children proper health and safety programs through the Camp Fairfax and SRS programs. Because of our success, FCPS staff were looking to the standards we put in place when they reopened schools months later. We put our health at risk before we could even get vaccinated because of our love of the children and families of Fairfax County. We have persisted without pause since July of 2020. And yet, despite our success, we are struggling. Although many employees have leave, it's almost impossible to take days off because the shortage of staff and substitutes is so severe. Substitutes and other non-merit employees have expressed to me that they will be unable to continue working for the county much longer because pay and benefits don't allow them to provide for themselves and their families, and they feel their needs for scheduling and working conditions are not being met. As a result, many merit teachers and supervisory staff are considering quitting or retiring as well if they haven't already. County decisions are relayed at the last minute, staff don't feel like their health and safety is considered, and they are unable to take time off. Many staff, including myself, feel hesitant to call out even if we are feeling sick because we worry about leaving our coworkers without proper coverage. More and more, I see exceptional employees forced to walk away from the work they love because it is simply not sustainable. Because of this, it is crucial for employees like me to have a meaningful seat at the decision-making table. We communicate directly with our families and know how to best serve our community. We need our collective bargaining ordinance to include not only wages, but also benefits, working conditions, safety, staffing, and scheduling. These bargaining rights need to be extended to all county employees, including non-merit, temporary, and probationary employees. We also need to be able to communicate freely with our fellow union members in our workplaces without fear of retaliation. If these changes are made, we can improve the functioning of the entire county workforce. Without comprehensive child care, Fairfax families cannot work to provide the services we all rely on. I believe we offer a unique service that could be a model of excellent child care not only in Virginia, but for the entire country. I've also sadly seen our institution weaken due to lacks of protection and resources. Those of us who are so passionate about the work we do for our community are left feeling helpless and heartbroken. Today, you have the power to elevate Fairfax County to be a pillar of strength and support that our residents deserve. I hope you will make the right decision for Fairfax County workers and the thousands of families we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Norm Hall. And is Geronimo Robinson here? All right, if you please come down. Karen Johnson, please come down a little bit farther. And then David Broder, I did see David. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Good evening. I welcome the opportunity to speak today in support of amending and passing the collective bargaining ordinance. I have lived in Fairfax County and have worked for the county for 3 years. Even though all work has merit, I worked as a so-called non-merit child care worker, and then was converted to a child care worker with benefits, and then transferred to the Department of Transportation due to family health reasons. Let me be very clear about what drives me. Most people I know who have accepted employment offers from Fairfax County have done so in good faith with the expectation that solid service would be recognized with good pay and benefits, and that our working conditions would help keep us safe and effective. This dream of Fairfax County employment works for some county staff, but for many it's another story. There are easily definable segments of workers who are not getting the benefits from county jobs that they expected in return for their labor. Let's start by recognizing my friends who do child care for the county. Many are women and people of color. In spite of many attempts to make sure that there are plans in place for health and safety during the pandemic, there are still unacceptable gaps in procedures, scheduling, and staffing. We can also look at our DPW workers who work in extreme and often dangerous conditions in our parks, maintenance shops, and office buildings. They deal with the same issues and their top priority is to return home with the same number of limbs that they had when they came to work. Sadly, this doesn't always happen. Tragically, some of these workers never returned home. Now, my point is not to pick apart county management. Rather, my advocacy is to let us all work together to bring the benefits of county employment to workers in every part of the organization. If you do not make the necessary amendments to bring meaningful collective bargaining to the county, you will be letting Fairfax employees in our community down. Do not divide us. We must be able to negotiate wages, benefits, and working conditions, and all workers should be free to talk about their union without fear. All county workers deserve this. We can make the dream of Fairfax County employment a reality for everyone if we get this right today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Our next speaker is Geronimo Robinson, to be followed by Karen Johnson. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Geronimo Robinson. I'm speaking today as a union member of SEIU Virginia 512 and that on behalf of the county. I've been working in Fairfax County for nearly 14 years. I provide frontline emergency services as an employee in the CSB. Before, during, after this pandemic, my work in CSB serves those in dire situations. We have not stopped providing frontline services. Our programs run 24 hours, 7 days a week. Our clients, some of the most vulnerable individuals in our community, place incredible trust in me and my coworkers. And we go above and beyond to keep them safe, healthy, and on a path to wellness. I come from a family of civil rights workers, activists whose values and legacies I honor each and every day. I was raised to fight for justice and to not shy away from the truth. That's why I'm speaking tonight. Like many county workers, I have family members who live with and depend on me. During COVID, I never stopped providing frontline services. At one point, I was being exposed regularly to the virus. I incurred various costs uncovered by the county just to do my job, including using cleaning supplies, quarantining in a hotel, and to avoid putting my sister and my daughter at risk. Despite my Ivy League education, including my 2 degrees from the University of Virginia and my 3rd degree from Harvard University, and all the expertise I bring to my job, my income is so low that I qualify for public housing assistance in Washington, D.C. And every year I fall further behind as the county fails to fairly compensate its workforce. I had difficulty keeping up with the cost of living, especially with such small or non-existent pay raises. I share these 2 personal anecdotes to highlight that it's past time for strong collective bargaining. Having gone above and beyond in this frontline emergency services role for nearly 14 years, I can confidently say that it's past time for workers to have a real voice on the job, to advocate for ourselves and for our clients who rely on us every day. To get there, the Board of Supervisors must pass a strong collective bargaining ordinance. This ordinance should cover the full range of working conditions, not just pay and benefits. It must let employees communicate and meet about their union freely in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. This ordinance should cover all county workers, including temporary and probationary workers. Our temporary counterparts need to have the same rights. Workers, clients, and the community at large cannot afford to wait any longer. We have an opportunity to protect and empower our workforce and to improve public services. Now is the time we bring strong collective bargaining to Fairfax County. Essential workers here deserve the same rights that protect tens of millions of workers in this country. Let's do this. And ladies and gentlemen, regarding collective bargaining, it's showtime.
Our next speaker is speaker number 45, Karen Johnson. Ms. Johnson.
Hi. Yes, good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Karen Johnson. I'm speaking today as a union member of SEIU Virginia 512 and a long-standing SEI union member. I have worked for Fairfax County for 9.5 years. Currently, I serve as a preschool teacher under the Division of the Neighborhood and Community Services. I'm passionate about working with children. The on-site services for coworkers that my coworkers and I provide are critical to Fairfax families. Parents can rest assured that knowing that their children are receiving the best care close by. I see the positive impact that my work has every day, and it gives me joy. I have a passion for what I do, a calling, but I need to live. For the past 2 months, I have tried to find housing that I can afford with the income I'm making. Right now, I'm in a situation where I am almost homeless. I am an essential county worker that educates the next generation of Fairfax leaders, yet I can barely afford the essentials. I know I'm not alone here. There are many essential workers who keep this county running, yet, like me, they cannot cover their own needs. They struggle with housing, food, caring for their own loved ones. They commute an hour or more because they cannot afford to live in the community that they serve. I have seen truly amazing coworkers be driven out of their jobs because of the lack of honesty, transparency, and fairness in our work environment. That's why I'm not just advocating for the children I care for, I'm also fighting for my coworkers. We are just asking to be treated with dignity and respect. We want to be able to trust the county has our best interests at heart. We need accurate, transparent information about our positions and our pay. We want to focus on providing the best services. We want excellence for the community. To get there, the Board of Supervisors must pass a strong collective bargaining ordinance. This ordinance should cover the full range of our working conditions, not just the pay and benefits. We must have the right and freedom to communicate freely about our union in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. These rights should cover all county workers, including temporary, probationary workers. Do not divide us. Our temporary counterparts need to have the same rights as well. We do not want a two-tier system of employment in Fairfax. If we want high-quality, long-standing employees, we need transparency, honesty, collaboration with collective bargaining. We can achieve this. We can stop losing talent. We can develop working environments that are based on equity. We can establish a prompt, accurate sharing of information. We can create solutions together, working with management that benefits the community we serve. Let's pass a strong collective bargaining now. Fairfax cannot wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Our next speaker, speaker number 46, is David Broder. David, before you speak, is there anyone here in the auditorium who has not already signed up to speak on this item who wishes to speak? If you wish to speak and have not already signed up, you need to come down here and talk to the clerk and get your name on the list. Okay. David?
That's
I'm
dedication.
sorry, Mr. Broder.
I'm impressed this late into the evening you're still inviting more speakers. Good evening, Chair McKay, Vice Chair Gross, members of the Board of Supervisors, and County Executive Hill, and to all the union members and community members who are heading into hour 6, I think, here tonight. My name is David Broder. I'm a Fairfax County resident, the father of 2 FCPS students, and I'm proud to serve as the president of SEIU Virginia 512. I want to thank you for holding this hearing. I know it's been a long day, and I know it's a long night, but it's so critical that this board, as you always do, listens to the voices of working families. You just heard powerful testimony from your essential county employees, from general county employees, from firefighters and first responders and educators, sharing their personal stories about why it is past time for us to have collective bargaining. You have also heard, and you will still hear, from dozens of community members, families, and local leaders who are making it clear that it's not just workers who benefit from collective bargaining. It's all families. It's all of your constituents. It's our entire community that benefits. Earlier today, while y'all were hard at work, we held a rally just outside. We apologize if we were loud, where several hundred workers and community members rallied in support of collective bargaining. We heard from the Fairfax NAACP about how collective bargaining will advance equity in our community. We heard from faith leaders about the moral imperative to protect workers. We heard from county workers who've gotten COVID on the job, but who've never stopped supporting their community. And we will hear later tonight from the ARC of Northern Virginia about the importance of collective bargaining to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. The list goes on and on. Essential county workers and community members have made it very clear they want collective bargaining. And as if you heard, they don't want just any ordinance, but they want a meaningful ordinance. So what does that mean? You've gotten a lot of comments tonight, but not a ton of specifics from everybody. So let's be very specific. 4 things we want to lift up. 1, that it covers working conditions so that they can keep themselves, their families, and their community healthy. 2, that workers must be able to communicate and meet freely to discuss union matters without fear of retaliation. 3, that all county workers, including so-called merit, non-merit, temporary, probationary, G status, everyone must be included. And 4, that an ordinance that does not divide workers. We urge you to reject any efforts to divide county workers into numerous fragmented groups and weaken their power. We are stronger together. 1 bargaining unit for general county employees, 1 bargaining unit for firefighters, 1 bargaining unit for police. Because there is so much that we have to bargain for. For health and safety protections on the job, we know that during the pandemic, nursing homes with collective bargaining had 30% fewer deaths than those without. For equity, because we know that collective bargaining lifts up all workers while closing racial and gender pay gaps. You know the statistics at this point as well as I do. Workers in 47 other states and DC have collective bargaining rights. 68% of Virginians support the right of workers to come together and form a union and bargain. I don't think 68% of Virginians agree on anything, other than maybe they'd like a year without an election. You know these stats, so let me end on a slightly more personal note. I'm here tonight. My family is here in this community only because of collective bargaining. My grandparents' union contracts gave my father's family stability, allowed him to go to college. My mom's union contract is the reason that as kids we had food on the table and my brother and I could go and see the doctor, and we never had to choose between the two. My family shouldn't be the exception. I know we all want this. Every family deserves the health, the safety, the economic security that a strong union contract gave me when I was growing up. You can do that. You can set the best standard for workers and for the community in all of Virginia. You can make history, and I look forward to joining y'all in 2 weeks when you do so. We thank you for your leadership. It has gotten this far. It has not been easy. We are counting on you to bring this home and to ensure that every Fairfax County family can thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Broder. We are now on speaker number 47, Emily Vanderhoff, who has submitted video testimony.
Good evening, Chairman McKay and members of the board. My name is Emily Vanderhoff. I'm a teacher with Fairfax County Public Schools and a proud member of my union, the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. I'm also a 10-year resident of Fairfax County and a homeowner in the Mount Vernon district. As an involved member of my union, I've been long aware of the benefits of collective bargaining, and I've been eagerly anticipating school and county employees gaining this right in Fairfax County. Collective bargaining builds strong workplaces where workers have a say to help create better working conditions. Meaningful collective bargaining rights will make Fairfax County an attractive place to work, which will attract and retain a quality workforce to provide critical services to our community. County employees have stepped up throughout this pandemic to serve Fairfax residents and support strong and healthy communities. It's time to recognize the important work of our county mental health workers, first responders, child educators, and so many more by passing a strong collective bargaining ordinance that will take care of our county workers in the same way they dedicate themselves to keeping our community safe and strong. This board has made good strides in developing this ordinance, but there are still a few changes needed to ensure that we do right by county employees. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the following changes recommended by the unions. 1, we must let employees bargain over working conditions like health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. This is the core component of collective bargaining. 2, we must let employees communicate and talk and meet about their union freely in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. And 3, do not divide workers. All county employees, including temporary workers, should have the right to bargain in one combined unit with other employee groups. Thank you for your work in developing this ordinance, and please consider these changes to make this ordinance even better for our hardworking county employees. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight on this important matter and look forward to following the progress of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Is Lindsay Galizio here? Lindsay Galizio here? Okay. She was speaker 48. Speaker 49, Kate Ehrlich, has submitted video testimony.
Good evening. My name is Katie Ehrlich of Fairfax County Public Schools and the Fairfax Education Association, and a proud member of the Fairfax County community. Residents of Fairfax County rely on the essential public services provided by Fairfax County employees, such as educators, school and public bus drivers, medical personnel, first responders, and many more. This is why I believe that it is critical for county employees to have meaningful collective bargaining rights. Many employees, nurses, doctors, first responders, mental health care workers, educators, and more, kept our community safe, healthy, and moving forward during this pandemic. They need a strong collective bargaining ordinance and to have a seat at the table to negotiate for the things they need to continue to serve our community and to keep themselves and their families safe and healthy as well. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes recommended by the unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. Some changes we need. We must let employees bargain over working conditions like health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. This is the core component of collective bargaining. We must let employees communicate and meet about their union freely in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. And we must not divide our workers. All county employees, including temporary workers, should have the right to bargain with us in one combined unit. Together, we are strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Our next speaker is Jeanette Corselius, and Jeanette has joined us by phone. Is that right? Jeanette, can you hear me okay?
Yep, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Good evening, Chairman McKay, Vice Chair Gross, and the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. My name is Jeanette Zahia Corselius, and I'm standing in solidarity with my union siblings as the Fairfax Education Association leader and member of the past 6 years, and as an FCPS alum and employee and a proud resident of the Mason District in the Fairfax County community. Every day, residents like myself rely on the essential public services provided by Fairfax County employees. As an educator, I've witnessed the powerful and impactful work SAC does in taking care of our FCPS students. SAC employees watch FCPS children before and after school and are represented by SEIU. SAC employees bridge many gaps for our students, staff, and families, and they're a vital part in supporting our families' return to work and keeping our schools safe. I believe it is imperative for county employees to have meaningful collective bargaining rights and have a real seat at the table to negotiate for the things that they need to serve a community and take care of their own families. Public sector workers in Virginia have been denied the right to bargain for 44 years, while wages, the quality of living, and respect has drastically declined as the cost of living, worker division, and workplace hazards have steadily increased. Our county employees, mental health workers, first responders, child care workers, among others, have kept our community healthy, safe, and moving forward during this pandemic. They need a strong collective bargaining ordinance to keep themselves and their families healthy and safe as well. While the ordinance has come a long way, there are still aspects that need to be altered. The time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt a broad-based, wide-scope ordinance and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights to our county for our county employees recommended and supported by our unions. The workers know what's best for them, their community, and the people they serve. The changes needed are as follows. Employees must be able to bargain over working conditions as it affects health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. This is a core component of collective bargaining. Number 2, allow all county employees, including temporary workers, to have the right to bargain with us in a combined unit. Number 3, we must allow employees to communicate and organize freely with their union in the workplace without fear of retaliation. Show our essential and frontline workers that they matter by giving them a seat at the table. A strong collective bargaining ordinance will benefit workers, their families, and our community for generations to come. A strong county ordinance will set the stage for a strong school board resolution for our Fairfax County public school employees. To reach our goal and vision of one Fairfax, give labor unions a seat at the table to eradicate racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, and classist labor practices. Uphold workplace democracy, give power to the people, and watch our community grow and thrive. And I shall end with an excerpt from Jane McAlevy's A Collective Bargain. Power for ordinary people can be built only by ordinary people standing up for themselves with their own resources in campaigns where they turn the prevailing dogma of individualism on its head. They use their collective intelligence and ingenuity to build solidarity and fight for human dignity. Starting in the early 1970s and for the next 4 decades, the rise of something known as liberal philanthropy advanced a model of change predicated on pacifying the majority while lawyers and specialists advocated on behalf of others, thus the advocacy model. This philanthropic agenda also endorsed the end of unions, seeing them as a vestige of a bygone industrial era. It's time to realize that approach was and is a colossal failure. Democracy, it turns out, requires a thinking people, and the people know what's best for them. Give us a seat at the table and watch us thrive. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. We are now on speaker number 51, Lucy Beednell, who has submitted video testimony.
My name is Lucy Beednell from the Arc of Northern Virginia, and we are such proud members of the Fairfax community and have been for the more than 60 years we've been around. Every single day, the residents we serve, people with developmental disabilities, their loved ones, and families, rely on essential services provided by Fairfax County employees. Everything from social workers and case managers to help them navigate benefits, direct care staff, even nurses. This is why we believe it's critical for county employees to have meaningful collective bargaining rights and a real seat at the table to negotiate for the things they need to serve our community, as well as to take care of their own families. Our county employees, mental health workers who work with individuals with disabilities, first responders who are often the people called when someone with a disability is having a crisis, educators who help people with disabilities learn, and so many more help keep the disability community and others happy, healthy, and safe. And they've been doing it nonstop during this pandemic. They need strong collective bargaining ordinances to keep themselves and their families healthy and safe as well. They deserve it. The ordinance has come a long way, but there are some important changes we're hoping to see, and the time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. We strongly urge the supervisors to adopt the changes recommended by the unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. The changes we're hoping to see include letting employees bargain over working conditions, especially health and safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. This is a core right of collective bargaining. Also, we need to let employees to communicate and talk about their union freely in the workplace without fear of retaliation. Please don't divide our workers. All county workers, including those doing temporary work, should have the right to bargain as one unit. Together, we are all so much stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is speaker number 52, Melissa Cotting-Beaudoin. Is she here? She will be followed by speaker 53, Christian Martinez-Lemus. Melissa, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I've heard over 50 people speak tonight, and they represent the unions, the employees, whether they're union leaders or just members of unions, educators. Tonight, my title is taxpayer, nothing more. I don't have an economic relationship. With the county, I don't draw a paycheck. But I do have a question for you. What is the implication on my taxes if you're to embrace collective bargaining? Will my taxes go up, and what will I get in response or in exchange for increased taxes? There's been minimal discussion this evening or explanation as to what the following language means in practice. Quote, subject to the limitations of the budget process and appropriations. The implications of this quote are chilling, as once a contract is ratified and in force, the county is obligated to fulfill the contractual obligations, pay increases, benefits, voices in disciplinary action, or even someone actually tonight advocated for child care benefits. You will have to abide by that no matter what these contractually obligated costs will incur. Who will be left paying for these costs? I will, and the taxpayers of Fairfax County. Taxpayers, customers, stakeholders, whatever you choose to call them, we will have to pay for these obligatory increases in the form of increased taxes. I did a little bit of research, and right now, Fairfax County's annual payroll exceeds $900 million, and that does not include the school. According to research, collective bargaining averages as an increase of 1 to 3% in payroll alone. And that's before you have a bargaining impasse and costs go up. So I ask you, if you are to embrace collective bargaining and pass this ordinance, as a taxpayer, is it going to increase my benefits? Fairfax County already has excellent services. We have so much to be proud of. And these excellent people behind me have served this community so well. But what am I going to get as a taxpayer in this, other than more taxes? I ask you to reconsider the decision you're going to make, and that, yes, you have an obligation to your county employees, but there's another group that's not well represented here tonight, and that's the taxpayers. And you're obligated to guard our interests as well. I yield back my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is speaker number 53, Christian Martinez Lemus, who is with us. Christian, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman McKay and the rest of the Fairfax Board of Supervisors. My name is Christian Martinez Lemus, the Advocacy Specialist at CASA, and today I am speaking on behalf of the organization and our membership. CASA is the largest immigrant advocacy organization in the Mid-Atlantic region, with over 125 lifetime immigrant, Latinx, and working class members, focusing on the 3 pillars: advocacy, services, and organizing, with membership spanning across Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, we are 10,000 members strong and still growing. Today, CASA and I are here in support of the collective bargaining changes that are being recommended today by our union family, especially highlighting the efforts of Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 512. We want our hard workers to be a voice in the union, communicating with their representatives and be involved in the betterment of its employee members, to help them with higher wages, shorter working hours, and safer workplaces and better health care. Being involved in the process of the place you work will have positive effects on its employees, providing safety and being inclusive. Every day, residents of this community rely on the essential public services provided by Fairfax County employees, such as health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. Our own CASA and community members at large benefit from these public services. This is why we believe the county employees must have meaningful and collective bargaining rights and a real seat at the table to negotiate for the things they need to serve our community and take care of their own families. We must let employees communicate and talk and meet about their union freely in the workplace without the fear of retaliation. Our county employees, like our mental health workers, first responders, child educators, and so many more, have kept our community healthy, safe, and moving forward through this pandemic. They need a strong collective bargaining ordinance to keep themselves and their families healthy and safe. The ordinance has come a long way. but essential changes still need to be made. The time is now for Fairfax County to get this right. Do not divide workers. All county employees, including temporary workers, should have the right to bargain with us in one combined union. Together, we are strong. We encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes recommended and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for the county employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Our next speaker is speaker number 54, Sarah Robles, who submitted video testimony.
Hello, my name is Sarah Robles. I have lived in Fairfax County my whole life and have worked within our schools as a teacher for the last 9 years. Fairfax County has always been considered one of the leading counties in the state. Today, you have an opportunity to continue that legacy by passing collective bargaining rights for public employees. Throughout this pandemic, these people have worked tirelessly to keep our community healthy, safe, and prosperous. We call these people essential workers and heroes. Now you can show them how heroes should be treated in this county. While your ordinance draft is a step in the right direction, it does not go far enough. The local unions have agreed upon several changes which would make our ordinance more robust. They are: 1, allow employees to bargain over working conditions like health, safety, staffing, scheduling, and discipline. This is the core component of collective bargaining. 2, allow employees to communicate and meet about their union freely in the workplace without fear of retaliation. 3, allow all county employees, including temporary workers, the right to bargain as one combined unit. With these changes, Fairfax County will lead the way in workers' rights and continue to be one of the best counties to live and work in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Our next speaker is speaker number 55, Clayton Signier. Is Clayton here? Is Clayton in the boardroom? I don't see him. Number 56, Richard Hayden. Is Richard Hayden with us? Speaker number 56, Richard Hayden. Don't see him. Speaker number 57, Amalia Castillo Morrison, has submitted video testimony.
Hi, my name is Amalia and I'm an 8th grader in FCPS, and today is my birthday. Currently, my only job is to work hard at school, and I'm very lucky to have the support of Fairfax County workers to accomplish my goals. My family are very avid readers, and we use the Fairfax County Public Library. I like most of my teachers, and they're really good teachers who deserve to get paid better for the work that they do. My family has picnics and takes hikes in Fairfax County parks with our dog. The parks are great. Riverbend is my favorite park, and it takes a lot of work to keep it maintained for families like mine. Fairfax County workers take care of me, my family, and our whole community. They deserve to have a real voice in keeping themselves and their families healthy, safe, and successful too. They should be able to bargain over working conditions, even if they're temporary, like summer workers. Every single worker is important. I strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to adopt the changes recommended by unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. It'd be a pretty great birthday gift, to be honest.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is speaker number 58, Virginia Diamond, who has submitted video testimony.
Hello, my name is Virginia Diamond. I'm the president of the Northern Virginia Labor Federation, AFL-CIO. And on behalf of Nova Labor, I'm testifying to support collective bargaining for Fairfax County public employees. We feel strongly that these dedicated public servants have the interests of our community at heart, and that by giving them a voice on the job and a seat at the table, they will be able to provide important guidance on how our community's needs can best be met. And they deserve, as dedicated public servants, they deserve the dignity and respect of having a seat at the table and having a voice and being able to engage in collective bargaining. And so we strongly support meaningful collective bargaining. We believe that that is the best thing, not only for our employees, but also for our county. And we have confidence in the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, who have done such an outstanding job during this very difficult period, especially during the pandemic. They're outstanding leaders, and I know that they will do what's best for the county and adopt meaningful collective bargaining and make Fairfax County the very best county that it can be. So thank you so much for supporting collective bargaining.
Thank you, Ms. Diamond. Our next speaker is speaker number 59, Robert Rigby, who has submitted video testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman McKay, members of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. My name is Robert Rigby, Jr. I am in my 24th year as a public school teacher in Fairfax County. I'm a member of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers and the Fairfax Education Association, and I am co-president of Fairfax County Public Schools Pride. The first two represent educators and employees of FCPS, and the last is an organization for adult LGBTQ and allied stakeholders in Fairfax schools and families of students. The General Assembly and the Governor have done well to permit collective bargaining by local government employees. Now it is your turn. The proposed ordinance is a good thing. I would encourage you to consider the union's proposals around negotiations for working conditions, having one bargaining unit, and allowing workers to discuss employee business on campus without retaliation. I assume my employer, the Fairfax County School Board, will look closely at what you will do here. Research shows that localities in which public employees have a strong voice, have a more diverse and inclusive workplace, and are more attractive in their climate for businesses. I'll also make a plug for inclusive libraries, both for the public and the schools. Again, no major business will come to Virginia or Fairfax County if we discriminate. Thank you for your support of our school board. I encourage defense of our librarians, employees, and marginalized communities that are yet again the targets of hijinks and ill-spoken words. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Robert. Speaker number 60 is Karen Camplin. Is Karen here? Yeah. Ah, there is Karen up there. Karen, and while Karen is coming down, is Scott Trebitz here? Okay, Scott, you will follow Karen and one video testimony from Vernon Walton. So if you can just be ready. Karen, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman McKay and members of the board. Hi, my name is Karen Camblin, and I'm speaking with you today as the president of the Fairfax County NAACP. The Fairfax County NAACP has been an established community partner in Fairfax County since early 1900s, and we have been advocating for civil rights, education, economic justice, as well as environmental and criminal justice reform. And so I'm here today to speak with you and say that the Fairfax County branch is in full support of this ordinance, the collective bargaining ordinance, and we urge that you vote yes at the conclusion of your public hearing. Labor rights is inextricably linked to civil rights, human rights, and economic security. Enabling our public workers and our Fairfax County employees to exercise the ability to engage in meaningful collective bargaining will not only improve working conditions, but it will result in more and efficient productivity. I won't go into all of the details. I know it's been a very long day, but we've heard from so many of our important and essential workers and Fairfax County employees throughout tonight. And we've heard a growing theme, which is there's something needs to be done. They have expressed concerns, they have expressed difficulties that they have on this job, and this collective bargaining would give us an opportunity to hear from them directly and to find workable solutions that would be not only effective in making their working conditions safer, being able to provide quality and higher paying jobs, but for us as the general public, we too will also benefit from these changes that the collective bargaining would provide. And so I'll be short. I know, like I said, I know it's been a really, really long day. And so I just want to say, I have stood in front of the board on different capacities. And one of the main things that we've always talked about is how do we improve our public engagement, right? Whenever we're doing ordinances or anything like that, land use or whatever, we always strive to find the most innovative and effective way to reach out to the public and to hear back from the public, to make our policy and our processes better. This is what we need to do for our employees. We're not doing it for them. And so we should treat them in the way that we've been trying to increase and improve our public engagement process. And this is a way in which we can achieve the One Fairfax policy goals and objectives that we've been working on for the past couple of years to achieve. And so, again, I urge you to vote yes for the collective bargaining ordinance, and this is a path towards the One Fairfax that we so long for. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Our next speaker is speaker number 61, Vernon Walton, who has submitted video testimony.
Greetings. My name is Vernon Walton, Senior Pastor of the First Baptist Church of Vienna. And I'm honored to have just a few moments to speak to you with regard to the ordinance that you're considering on collective bargaining. I'm compelled today to speak to this particular ordinance because I know firsthand its impact. For many years, my father worked for a local municipality and was the benefactor of collective bargaining, and therefore my family and I personally know what the benefits are and can be. Benefits as it relates to wages, as it relates to health care, as it relates to working conditions. I'm a proud resident of Fairfax County, not only a proud resident, but I'm a proud pastor and faith leader in this particular community. And I'm proud of the work that our essential public service employees do on a regular and consistent basis. Truth is, daily our lives are impacted by their work. Whether they are child educators, whether they're mental health workers, whether they're first responders, we can see firsthand the impact that they have in our communities and on our families and in our lives. For 18 months, we celebrated them, we championed them, we told them what a difference they were making, and for 18 months, they demonstrated their commitment and effectiveness during a pandemic. They did not waver in their commitment, and in many instances, they did this by putting themselves at risk and in harm's way. Today, I ask that this particular board would boldly make the decision, pass this ordinance, and simply adopt the changes recommended by the unions and pass meaningful collective bargaining rights for county employees. You can make the difference, and you can do it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon Walton. Speaker number 62 is Scott Trebitz. Is Scott here? Scott is here. Scott, welcome. The floor is yours.
Welcome. Thank you. My name's Scott Trebitz. I've lived in Northern Virginia for 36 years, and I've been a taxpayer here in Fairfax County for 22 years. Before I get into my remarks, I want to make it clear that over 50 people have spoken this evening, and only one person has really said, don't vote for collective bargaining. The overwhelming majority of people that have been here today have actively supported the idea that public employees should have collective bargaining. I've spent the last 35 years working with public employees. I've worked with teachers, I've worked with principals, I've worked with firefighters, I've worked with police, I've worked with county employees, and I've worked with state employees. And I've seen firsthand the benefit that collective bargaining not only has to the employees that work in a community, but to the taxpayers of those communities. Earlier tonight, I heard the one person say, what's in it for me, the taxpayer? I'm going to answer that with 2 words. Good, solid employees. Actually, it's 4 words. You want good people to deliver your services? You have to honor their voice. That's what's in it for the taxpayer. All around the country, when I see collective bargaining work properly, I see the information that the employees give to political leaders, to county executives, and I see enhanced services. the one opponent who spoke said that if you do collective bargaining, it'll increase wages 2, 3, maybe 4%. What she didn't talk about was the efficiencies you will gain through collective bargaining and listening to your employees on how you can deliver those services more effectively. How you can use their expertise to be able to enhance what you deliver to every single taxpayer in this community. I'm going to leave you with one other thought. I'm not saying collective bargaining is the best thing you're ever going to see, and I'm not saying collective bargaining is terrible, although in the last 24 hours I've seen a video that says collective bargaining is awful. Just look at New Jersey and California. Those two states are terrible because of collective bargaining. That's a big jump to be able to say 2 states are terrible because of collective bargaining. I think a lot of factors go into perceptions of why states are bad. But ultimately, when you decide what collective bargaining looks like, if you want a positive situation with your employees, it's all in your attitude. What do you want to accomplish? If you want to serve the taxpayers of this community, as the employees of this county want to do, and you come together with a goal to serve taxpayers, then collective bargaining is going to be really successful. And to answer that earlier question, what's a taxpayer going to get? A taxpayer is going to get better efficiency and better services and a happier community with happy workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. We're on speaker number 63. 63 is Jack Curley, who I know is here. Jack, if you want to make your way on down. And Jack will be followed by, we're going to go back to speaker 13, Adam Norton, who was disconnected earlier. Jack, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Jack Corelli. I'm a resident here of Fairfax County in the Providence District. And today I speak to you as an individual and I guess taxpayer as well. My message is clear. I wholly and unequivocally support the rights of workers to organize and collectively bargain for better wages, working conditions, and hours. I encourage this board to support and enact a strong and meaningful collective bargaining ordinance for county employees. And I don't say this from some ivory tower. I speak in support as the product of growing up in a union family. Both my mother and father are union auto workers in Detroit, Local 600. My grandfather was a Teamster, and my grandmother organized for the UAW in Region 1A. They all taught me the value of hard work, of the need for workers to come together and organize and collectively bargain for a better world. I saw firsthand the benefits of collective bargaining: weekends, holidays, sick leave, safe working conditions, paid time off, better contracts, the best health care any money can buy, a voice in the workplace, and protections for when the economy sank, and benefits from when the economy boomed. Being pro-union is not just about the individual, though. To be pro-union means you support the right of workers to have time with their family, to watch their kids grow up and succeed, to give back to their community, to build a sense of camaraderie with others in the workplace and in their community. Simply put, to be pro-union is to be pro-family. To be pro-union is to be pro-Fairfax. Solidarity forever does not mean sometimes. And this is a time where we need to show solidarity with the working people who have spoken before me and those who are doing the work of this county day in and day out to make this county, the best place to live, work, and thrive. I encourage you to support a strong collective bargaining ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Jack is the last of our speakers who have signed up in advance. I understand we lost Adam Norton again, who was speaker 13. The call has dropped again. So at this time, let me ask if there's anyone present in the auditorium that has not testified who would like to speak on this matter. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone present who has not testified and would like to speak? Seeing and hearing no one, let me ask the clerk. Let me just verify that there are no other callers on the line.
We do have one caller on the line, John Highguy, who will receive 3 minutes.
Okay. John, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Chairman McKay, I can hear you clearly. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a union member. I'm a retired Foreign Service officer and member of the American Foreign Service Association, AFSA. Now, AFSA members cannot strike. I would hope that ironclad, no-strike provisions are in any future agreements. But with that said, I'd like to, have it recorded as a Fairfax County taxpayer. I'm against this collective bargaining. It seems to be a solution in search of a problem. I have a child in school. Her teacher quit because she didn't like commuting from Stafford up to the Colvin Run Elementary School, and I can understand that. The traffic is horrible. But that, she didn't quit because of, some horrible principal. We got a great principal there, but it was because of the commute, and I understand she found a job there in the Stafford County schools. But I foresee many negatives to collective bargaining. I foresee fiscally unsustainable promises being made by politicians to benefit unionized collective bargaining recipients, but which will be paid for by county taxpayers. And, to the speaker who's saying, you get more efficiencies. Let's say teachers get a 5% increase, because of inflation. How will they become more efficient? Will they be teaching more students in the same classroom? I want smaller class sizes, not larger classes. And I was under the impression that county employees are not prohibited from offering suggestions on ways to improve the workplace or deliver more efficient services. Other problems, from my point of view as a taxpayer, I foresee politicians making overly generous pension and health care promises for retired union members, which will be paid for by county taxpayers, not by the politicians. And again, they'll be unsustainable, and you could end up with bankruptcy situations like some of those places in California or Detroit. I foresee rubber rooms, like in New York City, where union rules prevent firing of terrible teachers. So these horrible teachers draw a paycheck because they can't be fired. So they're put in rubber rooms where they can, do crossword puzzles all day and still get a paycheck. And also I'll leave here with a couple of academic studies that were done recently. Basically, the long-run consequences of allowing public sector unions to engage in collective bargaining are less accountability and poorer performance, according to some recent studies. The effect of collective bargaining rights on law enforcement, evidence from Florida by University of Chicago law professors Damika Dharmapala, Richard McAdams, and John Rappaport suggests that police unionization may result in greater misconduct. You get these union rules, you can't fire police officers, they can engage in misconduct, they become, hard to fire them. So, they're like empowered to do things they shouldn't. The primary result is that collective bargaining rights led to about a 27% increase in complaints of officer misconduct for the typical sheriff's office. Now, this was a study done in Florida. I don't think we're, that much different here up here in Virginia. And, in terms of teachers, I thought this was very interesting. The new evidence on the effects of teachers' unions on student outcomes, teacher labor markets, and the allocation of school resources. There's a paper by Cornell researchers Michael Levenheim and Alexander Willen. The paper is called The Long-Run Effects of Teacher Collective Bargaining, and they concluded that teacher unionization has adverse long-term labor market consequences for students. I'm not going to read the whole abstract, but they said basically collective bargaining reduces earnings by $199.6 billion in the U.S. annually. So,
John, if you could wrap up, your time expired a bit ago.
Okay, so basically, please don't vote for collective bargaining. I am in favor of, talking to workers, employees, but collective bargaining is not the route to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And let me verify with the clerk that there are no more callers.
No, there are no more callers.
Okay. All right. At this point, are there any closing comments or recommendations from staff?
No, not at this time, thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions from board members? We've heard a lot of testimony, and so I think, as some folks alluded to earlier, obviously we've heard from over 60 speakers who provided great input to the board in helping fine-tune what is our proposed ordinance. And then, given the lateness of the hour and the fact that I know my colleagues want to be able to absorb what we heard tonight, I am going to make a motion to defer this and keep the record open so that folks can continue to submit written comment to the board over the next 2 weeks, but to defer this to our next board meeting so that we can make sure, as several speakers have said, that we get the draft ordinance right and have an opportunity to take in all the feedback that we heard tonight. But before I make that motion, I want to thank our staff who's worked tirelessly on this. I want to thank everyone who testified today and the respect that they showed for each other throughout this process. And I know that all of us will have much more to say when we take this item up if this motion to defer is to pass. And so let me put my motion on the table. I move to defer the Board of Supervisors' decision on the proposed ordinance entitled Ordinance to Amend Chapter 3 of the Code of the County of Fairfax, Virginia, County Employees by adding Article 10, Collective Bargaining, Sections 3-10-1 through 3-10-18 to a date certain of October 19th, 2021 at 4 p.m. with the record remaining open for written comment.
I'd be happy to second that motion. Is there discussion on the motion?
Just very briefly, Madam Chair. Again, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to take in everything that we heard. And so I think, a 2-week period of time will be sufficient for us to do that. At least that's my hope, and that's why I've deferred it to, I'm proposing to defer it to a date of October 19th, 2021. But want to encourage folks to continue to submit written testimony on this, and especially following up on what we heard tonight. But this is a very serious decision, a very important decision to this board, and I think it would be short-sighted for us to try to move forward tonight to move approval of this without taking in everything that we heard. And so I think it's the right thing to do to defer, and I hope my colleagues will support it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other discussion? Before I call on Supervisor Harity, though, I think it would be helpful if people are still listening, for those speakers who had specific recommendations for changes to ordinance language, if you could send that in. It's a little hard to take notes when everybody is speaking so quickly. So if there are specific language changes, please send those in. Give us the chapter and verse of where you think it needs to be. That would be helpful. Thank you. Supervisor, yes. Did you?
I was just, thank you, Madam Chairman. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. I apologize for getting, it's been a long day. I want to thank the folks who testified about schools, because obviously whatever we do with our collective bargaining ordinance, presumably, is something that the schools are watching. But I also want to make very clear, because there's been a lot of misinformation out there. There is absolutely not one word of this proposed ordinance that will directly affect the Fairfax County Public Schools. They have a separately elected school board. The notion that somehow scaring people into believing schools are going to close over collective bargaining, frankly, is nonsense. And I think one of the reasons why we heard a lot of testimony from people about schools today is because they were annoyed by that misinformation. And so our collective bargaining ordinance in Fairfax County is for our Fairfax County employees. If the school board decides to adopt a collective bargaining ordinance, that ordinance will be the engagement with the school community. And so I appreciate the solidarity, certainly, and I appreciate why it's so important to our teachers to weigh in and our teacher unions to weigh in today. But I'm hearing a lot from citizens about what this would do to schools, and that's as a result of straight up scare tactics, misinformation. And so I just want to make that clear on the record. This is too important a decision to be scaring people into things that aren't true. And it's not true to say our collective bargaining ordinance in Fairfax County affects our teachers and our school system. They have a right to their own public policy process. They have a right to their own public hearings, and they have a right to make the decisions that they think are appropriate for the schools. And so I want to make that crystal clear to anyone in the public that's still watching.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Harity, you had your hand up for questions.
Just real briefly, because I got good news and bad news about 2 hours ago from the Washington Post that we were going to defer this to October 19th. So part of me is happy about that. Part of me is not very happy about that, because I really think, as we've heard from so many of our, even those that support collective bargaining, and it is pretty clear I don't support collective bargaining. I support working with our employees, and I support our employees, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done here, and we've heard a lot. And I think 2 weeks without a board discussion, without our expert, our consultant that we hired to help us through this process, for us not to ever have discussed this except for one committee meeting a long, long time ago, and we've added an awful lot of stuff since then, and we've heard about legal challenges, we've heard about all kinds of things from, again, unions that support collective bargaining. I think it's short-sighted that we push it to the 19th without having an opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves and with our expert some of the things that were brought up tonight. So that's my opinion. I would take the time and do it right for our employees, because remember, most of the people we heard tonight were our employees, and there were some very unhappy employees tonight.
Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Harity. Seeing and hearing none, I think we're getting to the point where we've been in session for about 12 hours. All those in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? Mr. Chairman, that motion carries unanimously.
Vice Chairman Gross. Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Gross. And with that, that brings us to the end of our board meeting on October 5th, 2021. Our board meeting is adjourned.